Hello, football fans, and welcome to another episode of Road to the Big Game, the series where we chronicle the journey of both teams en route to a given Super Bowl. And indeed, the Super Bowl we've been covering, Super Bowl 37. The date, January 26, 2003. The place, Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, California, in front of a packed house of 67,603 fans. The teams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team with a complicated history of loserdom, who in the late 90s have started to come together to build one of the most dangerous defenses of all time, with a so-so offense, but at long last have made it to the big game for the first time. And the Oakland Raiders, a team that has one of the most craziest histories of all time, but also one of the league's most consistently popular teams, with a high-octane offense, one of the most dangerous passing games ever seen, and also a defense that in itself is quite excellent. And making their first Super Bowl appearance since 1983, and fifth appearance in the history of the big game. In part 1, we cover the Bucs' troubled and sometimes laughable history during their first 20 years of existence. But then they began to build to a contender thanks to General Manager Rich McKay and Coach Tony Dungy, building an epic cover 2 defense with a so-so offense. Part 2, we cover the Raiders, one of the most storied teams, be it for good or bad reasons in the history of professional sports. Once a great team that faltered come the late 80s, but then, regardless of the love or hate for longtime owner Al Davis, which has been well documented, he did find a coach to motivate them at last, and that's John Gruden. They built that dangerous pass attack with that decent defense. Coming off the 2001 season, the Bucs are coming off their third straight year making the playoffs, the first time they've done so in franchise history. But their lack of offensive consistency and holes in their great yet flawed defensive system somewhat led McKay to part ways with Coach Tony Dungy after 6 seasons. The Raiders are coming off their arguably most devastating loss in the history of the team, and no doubt the most controversial, after the New England Patriots beat them in the divisional playoff round in the infamous Tuck Rule game. And that led to alleged dissension between Al Davis and Coach John Gruden, who was dropped after 4 seasons in a very questionable decision. The Raiders, however, had an epic pass attack led by veteran backup quarterback Rich Gannon, who became the NFL's unlikely superstar, and veteran legend receivers, such as Raiders all-time great Tim Brown, who will be entering his 15th season, and indeed the greatest of all time, Jerry Rice, who led the 49ers after 16 seasons, and has fit in Oakland like a glove. And with the addition of running back Charlie Garner from the Niners, it made him all the more dangerous on the offensive side of things already, and he had a good offensive line led by Pro Bowler Lincoln Kennedy. The Bucs, of course, and their cover 2 defense made waves in the NFL, but many felt the problem had been exposed at the worst possible times, and that would be the playoffs. The defensive line core is led by the amazing Warren Sapp, who truly began the Bucs' build into a playoff club, and joined by Simeon Rice, who has really come into his own in Tampa. The other man who began Tampa's rebuild was another guy they built their defense on the back of, and that's Derek Brooks at linebacker. He was also drafted in the first round in 1995 along with Sapp. They're also joined by underrated and hardworking Shelton Quarles and Al Singleton. The defensive backcourt is led by veteran John Lynch, who has become one of the best in the league, as has Rondé Barber. Both teams need to build more on the opposite ends of the ball. The Raiders need more depth on defense, and Darrell Russell, their top defensive lineman, failed the league's substance abuse policy and will not play a single game for them this season. They do have a solid defender up front, Rod Coleman. They do need big help at linebacker, and their defensive backcourt is actually quite solid, led by the great Charles Woodson. On offense, the Bucs have always had trouble finding a steady group to make them into a powerhouse. They do have a good quarterback in Brad Johnson, who is a former Pro Bowler, but some feel good is all he simply is. They do have a superstar wide receiver in Keyshawn Johnson, who has found his footing again after 2 years with the Bucs at this point, and Mike Allstock can still deliver in the backfield. Their offensive line is solid, led by Vikings Pro Bowler Jeff Christie at center, but they still have some voids to fill. Meanwhile, both clubs on special teams, well, they seem to have a lot of the right elements. Kicker Martin Gramatica proved that he can deliver for the Bucs, while top prospect Sebastian Janikowski can get it done for the Raiders. In terms of punters, the Bucs still actually need one, while Shane Leckler is growing into one of the best in the game in Oakland. And in terms of returners, the Bucs are going with Aaron Stecker, an undrafted running back for kick returns, and while their primary punt returner will be receiver Carl Williams entering his 7th season, and he made the top 10 in punting yards the prior year. The Raiders have an undrafted returner themselves in Marcus Knight. A wideout, he will take the kicks. But first thing is first. For one thing, these two both need coaches. Well, for the Raiders, it's a natural choice. They go with their offensive coordinator, Bill Callahan, promoting him to the top spot. Callahan started coaching at the age of 22 in high school, but got his first collegiate job as a graduate assistant in Illinois. He was there from 1980 to 86. In 1982, he was promoted to special teams and tight end coach. And in 1984, became the offensive line coach. And his final season there in 1986 was quarterback coach. He moved to Northern Arizona for 2 seasons as an offensive line coach from 1987 to 88. After a year in Southern Illinois, he moved on to Wisconsin, where he was the offensive line coach for 5 seasons for the Badgers from 1990 to 94. He made his way to the pros by 1995, spending 3 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles as their offensive line coach from 95 to 97. And he was then hired by the Raiders at last in 1998, offensive coordinator. He, along with Gruden, built that pass attack that's now dominating the league. He's big even on the littlest detail, and he craves structure among his players. But can he motivate a defense? Well, I guess we'll soon find out. But what about the Bucs now? Well, they hire John Gruden! Yes! The former Raiders coach, the man who turned them back into winners, and many felt was unfairly dismissed, will now be the boss on the sidelines for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Much like Callahan, however, his career also started young. At 23, he himself also started in a graduate assistant position. However, he was doing it for the Tennessee Volunteers, 2 seasons starting back in 1986. After a season each as a passing game coordinator at Southern Missouri State and tight end coach for Pacific, he had his first taste of the pros as an offensive assistant for the 49ers in 1990 before returning to college ranks for a season in Pittsburgh as a wide receivers coach. But then returned to the NFL, working with the Green Bay Packers for 3 seasons from 92 to 94, starting as an offensive assistant and quality control coach before becoming their receivers coach. But he and Callahan actually first came together on the Eagles, as Bill, of course, as I was mentioned, was their offensive line coach, and Gruden was the offensive coordinator for 3 seasons, 95 to 97. However, when both were dismissed, the Raiders scooped them both up in 1998. So Gruden got his first head coaching job, easy for me to say, and Callahan became their offensive coordinator. In 4 seasons, Gruden and Callahan built an amazing offense into a powerful force and returned the Raiders into the playoffs and made them contenders. His overall coaching record in 4 seasons in Oakland is 38-26 and 2 division titles back-to-back. Many feel Gruden can instill some offensive prowess in this Bucs that they sorely need, as he already has the awesome Monty Kiffin still coordinating the defense. Gruden is a high-energy motivator. Police communication with his players is key to success, but makes it known that it's his way or the highway when it comes to his system. He's also a great analyst when it comes to film study. So now the teams have their coaches. Now we head to the 2002 NFL Draft. Indeed, taking place at the theater at Madison Square Garden during the course of 2 days in April on the 20th and 21st of 2002. Both teams, well, they're hoping to fill the voids left behind by their departures. The Bucs, oddly enough, however, traded their first round and second round picks to the Raiders as compensation for hiring Gruden. But the first round pick was also given up by Oakland, but they still have 2 first round picks at 17th and 23rd overall. This was the year the Houston Texans entered the NFL, making it 32 teams strong. And it's a pretty good draft class so far, leading up to the Raiders' 17th overall pick. And they take Philip Buchanan, a defensive back out of Miami. The first round continued, and the Raiders, only 5 more picks in between that one and the other, at 23rd overall, they took their linebacker to fill the void, Napoleon Harris out of Northwestern. First, let's take a look at Buchanan. In 2 seasons for the Hurricanes, Philip Buchanan had 7 interceptions, 5 of which were in his senior year, 88 total tackles, 477 yards and punt returns, which is where the Raiders are really going to be using him this year. All but 13 of those yards came in his senior season, so he led the conference with a 464 and returned 2 of them for touchdowns. In 2001, he was named 2nd Team All-American, 1st Team All-Big East, Big East Special Teams Player of the Year, and a BCS National Champion. Pure speed, slick moves, Buchanan has the skills needed to be a part of the Raiders' special teams. Well, now let's look at Napoleon Harris. Tall 6'3", a forceful 250 pounds, a highly skilled tackler who was a multi-athlete and also played basketball. He had quick thinking and able to change direction on a dime and always committed to making the tackle. During his 4 seasons with the Wildcats, he totaled 334 tackles and had 4 interceptions. He's a 2-time 2nd Team All-Big Ten selection in both 2000 and 2001. The Raiders, however, weren't quite done in this draft. In the second round, 55th overall, they took tight end out of Brigham Young, Doug Jolie. 6'4", 250 pounds, adds even more size to that offensive core. A heavy blocker who is always ready for the quick pass and ready to burst out for a few more extra yards. In 3 seasons with the Cougars, he had 768 yards receiving, 52 catches, averaging an excellent 14.8 yards a catch and 11 touchdowns. In his senior year alone, he had 492 yards receiving on 32 catches, 15.4 yards a catch, and 7 touchdowns. And he was 1st Team All-Mountain West and he will be splitting duties with Roland Williams this season. The Bucs actually didn't really make a big dent in this draft, but of course they hit the market when it came to acquiring new players. They acquired defensive end Greg Spears, who spent the first 3 seasons of his career with the New England Patriots and is coming off a stint with the Cleveland Browns. At 6'1", 265 pounds, he had tremendous quickness and could plow through an offensive line and put a hurt on anyone carrying the ball. So far in his career in 4 seasons, he has accumulated 13.5 sacks, 80 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. In his lone season with the Browns, he garnered 4 sacks, 30 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 recovery. And now the Bucs were ready to fill their void at punter. And hey, they picked up a dandy in Tom Tupa, 14-season NFL veteran and journeyman. Known as a coffin corner kicker, in his mid-30s he could still aim that ball inside the opposing 20-yard line. When he was first drafted by the Cardinals in 1988, he was actually meant to be a quarterback. In 4 seasons he spent with the Cards, he actually played QB in most of them and only spent 1 season as a punter. And briefly played quarterback for the Colts in 1992. He didn't play in 1993, but became a full-time punter going forward. After 2 seasons with Cleveland, he played for the New England Patriots for 3 seasons from 96 to 98, even playing in Super Bowl 31, and became a huge fan favorite among Pats fans. He then went to the Jets, where he spent the prior 3 seasons, including obtaining his first Pro Bowl selection in 1999 and a first-team All-Pro. His QB experience, however, proved to be a big asset, as he can also not only make those fake punt passes, but he also is ready to play an emergency quarterback, as he had to do for the Jets once. In his career, he has averaged 43.3 yards a punt, has booted for 25,872 yards total. He has made the top 10 in yards per punt 5 times in his career, including finishing 2nd in 1997 and 3rd in 1999. However, his final season with the Jets wasn't a great year, averaging under 40 yards a punt with 38.4, booting 2,575 yards. They begin to fill their voids on offense, first the offensive line. They acquired another New York Jet, Kerry Jenkins at guard, 6'5", 305 pounds, prudently to keep his offensive line sizable and powerful. Jenkins fought his way into the league in 1997, being undrafted, and he has spent all 5 seasons of his career thus far with the Jets, playing in 66 games, starting in 48 of them, including every game for the last 3 seasons. Next is offensive tackle, Roman Oben, veteran of 6 seasons, beginning his career at the Giants in 1996. It's a 3rd-round pick. He spent 4 seasons there, and after playing just a couple games in his rookie year, he started every game for the Giants from 1997 to 99, never missing 1. He has spent the last 2 seasons with the Browns, where he still hasn't missed a game, and he has started all but 3 in 2 seasons he has been there. 6'4", over 300 pounds, a man tailor-made for Gruden's system. At tight end, the Bucs pick up Ken Dilger from the Indianapolis Colts, 6'5", 250 pounds, a driving force in offense, able to create room on the block and has quick hands. He spent all 7 seasons of his career at this point with the Colts, helping the emergence of Peyton Manning at quarterback, a very underrated aspect of that. He can make those quick short yardage patterns, but uses his power to take off for more and can break tackles. 7 seasons, he has totaled 3,181 yards on 261 yards receptions, averaging 12.2 yards per catch and scoring 18 touchdowns. In his final season with the Colts, he had one of his best. He had 343 yards receiving on 32 receptions, averaging 10.7 yards per catch with a touchdown. And his very first Pro Bowl selection. This gives Johnson more to work with, Brad that is. And they still need another wideout. And wow, they obtained the highly skilled, never exciting Keenan McCardle. Veteran of 10 seasons in the NFL, he actually had to fight his way into the league. He was originally a 12th round pick by the Washington Redskins in 1991. He was literally just 8 picks away from being Mr. Irrelevant. He didn't make the team, winning a spot on the Cleveland Browns in 1992. In his 4 seasons with the club, he had emerged as a very good receiver with over 700 yards in his final year with them, but it wasn't until 1996 when he joined the Jacksonville Jaguars that he truly broke out. He has spent the last 6 seasons there. He's had amazing chemistry with star quarterback Mark Brunell. His first 2 seasons there, he had 1,000-yard receiving years and is coming off of just 2 more. And his NFL career, he has totaled 7,526 yards receiving on 579 receptions, averaging 13 yards per catch and scoring 38 touchdowns. He was named to the Pro Bowl in 1996. And in his final season with the Jags, he put up 1,010 yards, which is his 4th overall 1,000-yard receiving seasons on 93 catches with 11.9 yards per catch and 6 touchdowns. This is what it's all about. Get someone who can complement Keyshawn and give Brad another big target to throw to. Dangerous up the middle, technically proficient, amazing athleticism, and now they just need one more addition to the backfield. And that's Michael Pittman, someone who can definitely complement Allstott's style. Tremendous size, can block, but can take off for a big run and has speed. He has spent all 4 seasons of his career with the Arizona Cardinals, has rushed for 1,945 yards, averaging 3.8 yards per carry, scoring 11 touchdowns. He can also be a threat on the catch with 1,039 receiving yards on 101 receptions, with just under 8 yards per catch and 2 TDs. He's coming off a career best season with 846 yards on the ground, 3.5 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns, 264 yards receiving on 42 catches. The Bucs have made some great signings to improve their offense, as McKay and Gruden work close together to bring in the remaining puzzle pieces. But now, we're going to Oakland. The Raiders need to fill their defensive tackle positions, and they start with veteran of 9 seasons, John Perella. A bulldozer of a tackle at 6'3" and over 300 pounds, his intensity made him a popular fan favorite in San Diego. He actually started his career, however, playing 10 games for the Buffalo Bills in 1993, but has been with the Chargers ever since in 1994. In his career, he has totaled 25.5 sacks, 323 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries. In his final season with the Chargers, he notched 2 sacks, career best 67 tackles, and a fumble recovery. This definitely adds depth to the Raiders' defensive line, but they really need someone to offset the loss of Russell. And wow, do they ever find him? Picking up Sam Adams of the Baltimore Ravens. Adams was actually a first-round pick in 1994 for the Seattle Seahawks, where he spent his first 6 seasons as a member of a devastating defensive line combo with the legendary Cortez Kennedy. 6'4", 350 pounds, a wrecking ball through any given offensive line with surprising agility. He then went to the Ravens for the last 2 seasons, helping make complete one of the greatest, most dangerous defenses of all time. And hey, he got himself a Super Bowl ring in the process of the 2000 season, Super Bowl 35. In his 8 NFL seasons, he has totaled 27 sacks, 264 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, and even an interception. He truly broke out as a star in Baltimore, making the Pro Bowl the last 2 seasons, was a second-team All-Pro in the Super Bowl winning year of 2000, and a first-team All-Pro for the first time in 2001. This is quite a big grab for the Raiders, and he was one of the final missing pieces of the puzzle for the Ravens. Could he be for the Raiders as well? Well, they still need a linebacker. And yes, another big grab. Bill Romanowski, 4-time Super Bowl champion and 14-year veteran. Vastly intense, big on the blitz, a violent tackler, a tremendous pass cover, built strong, durable, and some say outright dirty. He began his career as a hungry young kid for the San Francisco 49ers, won 2 Super Bowl championships in his first 2 seasons in 88 and 89. He left the Niners after 6 seasons and had become quite popular amongst their fans. After spending 2 seasons with the Eagles, his true best years came when he joined the Denver Broncos in 1996, the year he made the Pro Bowl for the very first time. And that was where he has spent the last 6 seasons, being key in their goal to finally win a Super Bowl, doing back-to-back the 97-98 seasons, getting his second Pro Bowl selection in the latter. In his career, he has totaled 1,007 tackles, 33.5 sacks, 19 forced fumbles, 18 fumble recoveries, and 17 interceptions. But the Raiders still have a defensive back slot to fill. And just when you think it can't get any better, they get Rod Woodson. No relation to Charles. Come to think of it, I don't think any of the Woodsons are related. But anyway, they were still damn good regardless, and Rod is no different. NFL veteran of 15 seasons. Elite cover man, versatility, can play any defensive back position. He can snatch passes almost out of nowhere. If you forgot where he was, you paid a heavy price. You always had to keep another eye on him. Also great tackler, great at the corner blitz, world-class speed, truly a warrior in every sense of the word. And you know what? He's even suffered some major injuries that probably could have stalled his career, but he never let that be the case. A first-round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1987, he spent 10 seasons there, where he became an icon in the Steel Town. He spent a year with the Niners in 1997, then went to the Ravens in 98, where he has spent the last 4 seasons and become a member of that elite defense. Again, I mentioned earlier, just could be stopped in 2000, and finally got himself a Super Bowl ring that year himself. In his career, he has 61 interceptions, 10 of them returned for touchdowns. It's an NFL record. 1,025 tackles, 18 forced fumbles, 23 fumble recoveries, and 13.5 sacks. He was the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year in 1993. 5-time first-team All-Pro, all during his time with the Steelers. 89, 90, 92, 93, and 94. 3-time second-team All-Pro, twice with the Steelers in 91 and 96, and once with the Ravens in 2000. 10-time Pro Bowler, 7 times with the Steelers, 6 straight times from 89 to 94, and again in 96. In the last 3 seasons with the Ravens from 99 to 2001. He led the NFL in interceptions for the very first time in 1999, and a member of the NFL's All-Decade 1990s team, and in 1994 was named the NFL's 75th anniversary team. Crazy. I think the Raiders finally have a scary defense, to say the least. So what do the odds makers think as the season is about to get underway? Well, look at this. The Bucs and the Raiders are neck and neck, literally tied, with 1,200 to 1 odds, tied for 5th best in the league. So the experts clearly believe they can contend for the Super Bowl, only behind the Packers, Eagles, Steelers, and Rams. And why not? The Bucs already have that dangerous defense with Monty Kiffin still at defensive coordinator, but now with an offensive-minded coach in Gruden, and he and new offensive coordinator, 23-year coaching veteran Bill Muir, have made them into more of a threat. The Bucs have a great mixed element of players with experience but young enough to create big energy. The Raiders' former offensive coordinator Bill Callahan is now at the helm indeed. The offense is more dangerous than ever and has capable Mark Trestman running it as well at the offensive coordinator position. But with the addition of several veteran savvy players, the defense now looks great to boot. With defensive coordinator Chuck Bresnahan maintaining things, the Raiders have actually built a full team chocked with playoff and Super Bowl experience, a rare strategy of football. And now without any further ado, it is time for Week 1. And indeed, Week 1 of the 2002 NFL season takes place on September 8th, and we start in Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play host to their division rivals, the New Orleans Saints, a very team coming off a 7-9 season, but are led by star wideout Joe Horn, who's coming off of back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons. The game does not start well. The Saints kill a lot of time off the opening drive, and they got a field goal. Tampa's first drive, Brad Johnson is sacked for a big loss and throws really bad passes. The Bucs trailed 13-3 at the half, and were getting dominated on time of possession. Though the Bucs came out hot in the third as Stecker returned the opening kickoff at the half 37 yards, Brad completed a long pass to Keyshawn, which set up a Keenan McCardle 4-yard touchdown pass, and the Bucs were in this thing at last. But the Saints roared back and retook the lead 20-10. The fourth quarter, Tampa's offense woke up again as Brad engineered a 73-yard drive leading to a touchdown, and the Bucs trailed by 3 with under 3 minutes to play. And Tampa's defense, however, really came alive in these final minutes thanks to big plays from Dexter Jackson, Greg Spears, and the likes of Barber and Lynch. They got the ball back, and Grammatica's last-second 40-yard field goal with no time left sent it to overtime. It was a thrilling OT, but on 4th and 9 from their own 7, something went wrong with a punt, it seems, and Tom Tupa tried to throw a pass to get a first down, but it was promptly intercepted in the end zone, and the Bucs lose their first game of the year 26-20. The media again cited the offense's lack of consistency as a problem, as Brad Johnson's inability to control the clock was an issue, but also the defense allowed a weak Saints team to run up on them quite a bit. Either way, Brad Johnson made some very bad plays, but I wouldn't say he was horrible in this game whatsoever. Yeah, he still completed 28 passes even though it was on 52 attempts. But he didn't actually throw any interceptions, oddly enough, and 2 touchdowns and 278 yards total. But he still takes a massive hit in the media. Keenan McCardle played pretty well in his first game as a Buc, 6 catches, 63 yards, and his first touchdown as a Buccaneer as well. And there were some decent plays from Pittman in the backfield, but their running game was shut down in this one. While the defense had rough moments, they weren't exactly terrible whatsoever. And Derek Brooks was excellent and a workhorse up there. He did snag an interception. He garnered 10 tackles. Not a great start for Tampa Bay, but obviously no reason to panic. Now we move to Oakland as the Raiders open their season at home. The Raiders indeed host their former division rivals, the Seattle Seahawks, who have now switched conferences to the NFC with the arrival of the Texans going to the AFC in front of a sellout crowd of nearly 53,000 at Network Associates Stadium. Yeah, there's a name for you. Anyway, the Seahawks seem to be on the rise thanks to quarterback Matt Hasselbeck. Their defense is exactly looking ready for the Raiders' onslaught, however. Gannon and the Raiders didn't waste any time. On their opening drive, it led to an 8-yard touchdown pass to Tim Brown to strike first. The Hawks, however, came right back and tied it. The defense shut Hasselbeck down, however, shortly after, but it wasn't until a good punt return from rookie Philip Buchanan that set up a 20-yard Charlie Garner run for a touchdown, taking a 14-7 lead. But then Gannon took command again on the next drive, completing a 26-yard pass to Garner, who was having a great game. 21-7 they now lead. The Raiders' new and improved defense is putting a hurt on Hasselbeck and the Hawks. Gannon is utilizing everyone he can on offense, and it leads to another touchdown. This one a 12-yard pass to Randy Jordan, and the Raiders lead 28-7 in the half. The Raiders maintained control and took a 31-7 lead thanks to a Janikowski field goal. And they held on for the win, 31-17, despite a late surge by the Seahawks. Great way to open the season, looking strong, focused, and determined to make big waves. And the fans are sent home happy. Gannon was pretty sharp to start the season, going 19 for 28 for 214 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw 1 pick, but again, he was a strategist out there, able to utilize 8 different players catching passes in this one. But it was actually Charlie Garner on offense who stole the show. He was the offensive powerhouse for the Raiders. He had 15 carries for 127 yards. That's 8.5 yards per carry and a touchdown, as well as 5 catches for 64 yards, averaging just under 13 yards a catch, and another touchdown, totaling 191 yards from scrimmage. That's insane. What a game. This new look Raiders defense also looked tremendous, which is 186 yards of total offense from the Hawks, and Charles Woodson was providing some insane coverage, leaving Hasselbeck without much to work with, and also garnered 8 tackles on the day. Rod Woodson also looked sharp in his debut as a Raider to boot. When it came to putting pressure on Hasselbeck, the Raiders were in his face constantly, so much so that Roderick Coleman and Tony Bryant each had a sack, while rookie Napoleon Harris and new Raider veteran Bill Romanowski shared one and also had 7 and 5 tackles respectively. This new look defense does indeed look like what the Raiders have been looking for a while, and we're going to stick with the Raiders for now going forward. In week 2, the Raiders went into Pittsburgh and took apart a very good Steelers team convincingly, 30-17, as they were able to hold down their powerful offense just enough for a victory. It was Rod Woodson, the former Steelers, day to shine. 3 fumble recoveries. First was a fumble recovery on his own 2-yard line as the Steelers were threatening to score, and it led to a 90-yard drive from Gannon that led to a Jerry Porter touchdown. The second came in the fourth quarter, holding off a Steelers comeback attempt, and was the third fumble recovery. After that was returned 41 yards with 4 minutes to play, putting the game out of reach, setting up a Janikowski field goal to make it 30-17. Also, however, it should be noted that Charles Woodson had his first interception of the year on the final play of the game. But bad news, he was actually playing with a very hurt shoulder. He's going to miss the next 5 games due to that shoulder injury, and he was nursing it, but kudos to him for finishing. Also, Terry Kirby made highlight reels across the NFL and deserves credit for putting the game out of reach as well, as when the Steelers closed the gap to 20-17, he returned the ensuing kickoff 96 yards for a touchdown, making it 27-17. He also returned another kick for 23 yards, giving him 119 total returns on the day. Rich Gannon, however, came close to making history. He completed 43 passes out of the 64 that he threw on the day, which was just too shy of equaling Drew Bledsoe's NFL record set back in 1994. Either way, at the time, it was the second best completion total in NFL history, and as of the end of this 2025 season, ranks tied for 5th best all time at this point. He did throw 2 picks, but he also had a TD pass, and his total yards, a massive 403. But he faced a lot of pressure. He was sacked 5 times. Either way, the consensus is Gannon is red hot to start this season. But this is why his passing game is working so well. Look at all the different targets he has. In this game, he had 5 different receivers with over 50-plus yards receiving. Jerry Rice led the way with 11 receptions for 94 yards, showing age really is just a number. Of course, the legendary longtime Raider also showing that very same fact, as Tim Brown had 7 catches for 64 yards. Jerry Porter had 6 catches for 62, just above 10 per catch. Tight end Roland Williams had 7 catches for 55 yards. Well, again, Charlie Garner continues his big start with 55 yards on 5 catches, 11 yards a catch, and he added 56 yards rushing on 6 carries. That's over 9 yards a carry. Can the Raiders keep this up going forward? Yes, they do. After a bye week in week 3, they destroy a very good Tennessee Titans team, which is albeit off to a bad start, however, 52-25. Gannon is amazing. 29 for 39, 381 yards, 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions. The Raiders' offensive pass attack is truly something to behold again this year, and may very well be more dangerous than ever. And here's a primary example why, as his primary target was the great Jerry Rice. 7 catches, 144 yards, including a 75-yard touchdown catch and a 10-yard touchdown pass in the game. Rice, in 2002, so far looking like he was the player he was in 1992. Unbelievable. Tim Brown also had 6 catches for 90 yards, including a 41-yard touchdown. Charlie Garner continues to be an incredible force once again. 11 carries, 57 yards, just over 5 yards a carry, 6 catches for 60 yards, 10 on the dot. A 17-yard touchdown pass to open the scoring in this one. And the special teams remain on fire as Philip Buchanan returned a punt 83 yards for a touchdown, which put the Raiders up 14-0. But then after that, Buchanan lost 5 yards on his next return, but not before sending a lateral to Terry Kirby, who returned it 79 yards for a touchdown. Buchanan also had an interception in this one. And Rod Woodson, 3 games into this season, Defensive Player of the Year talk has already started. After a game with 3 fumble recoveries, he had a game with 3 interceptions. That is ridiculous. Another ageless wonder on this team. His first game on the opening Titans drive of the game. His second pick was returned 82 yards all the way for a touchdown in the third quarter. And a third pick coming in the fourth. Bill Romanowski also played a superb game in this one, I should point out, too. And the Raiders then win their 4th in a row to begin the season, downing quarterback and before-mentioned Drew Bledsoe, as well as receiver Eric Moulds and the Buffalo Bills, 49-31 on the road. The Bills kept up with the Raiders offensively, actually, all the way until the end of the third quarter. Oakland was actually trailing in the game 31-28. But Gannon and the offense went to work. A big 69-yard pass and run play as Garner scored the touchdown to give them a 35-31 lead. Then the defense went to work. Buchanan helping for a touchdown and interception return. And ended with a Jerry Rice 20-yard touchdown pass. Wow. Gannon again stays the course with another huge performance. 23 for 38, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns. And once again throwing no interceptions. Gannon showing coolness and focus under pressure in the fourth quarter as well. Jerry Porter was actually the top receiver in this one. 7 catches, 117 yards, including a 29-yard touchdown pass to open the scoring in the first quarter, averaging a huge 16.7 yards per catch. Rice had another great game as well, catching 77 yards in receptions. But surprise, surprise, Charlie Garner, the multi-weapon again, channeling like a Marshall Faulk level energy this year so far it seems. 8 carries, 94 yards, including a 36-yard scamper for a touchdown, averaging 11 3/4 yards per carry, and 4 receptions for 83 yards, including that game-changing 69-yard brilliant touchdown play that put the Raiders ahead and not look back in the fourth quarter. The defense definitely stepped up in certain moments. So what a career night for Torrey James. 2 interceptions. The first stunning Bledsoe and the Bills in the third quarter, setting up a Raiders touchdown. His second was late in the game. But then, of course, there's rookie Philip Buchanan, who has really been showing a lot of heart as of late, returning his interception in the fourth quarter all the way 81 yards for that touchdown, as I mentioned, giving the Raiders a big lead. He also had a fumble recovery in this one, too. And up front, the pressure was on Bledsoe all day. Eric Barton was amazing with 2 sacks, 8 tackles, and a forced fumble, the one that Buchanan recovered. While the veteran Bill Romanowski had a sack and a half plus 5 tackles. Well, the Raiders indeed started the season as one of the hottest teams in the league. Not only are they winning games, but they just seem unstoppable with their offense at 4-0. But their rivals, the Broncos and Chargers, have also won 4 games, but have each suffered a loss as they have not yet had their bye weeks. Even the last-place Chiefs are still in the thick of things at a 3-2 record. But the Raiders look almost perfect. Everyone up and down the roster is producing. The superstars, the unsung heroes, even the guys off the bench. And now they're doing that on both sides of the ball. Now let's go back to Tampa and see if they bounce back from that rough opening week loss. Wow, they certainly do. Easily taking apart the now fallen Baltimore Ravens, shutting them down and shutting them out on the road, 25-0. The Tampa defense allowed just 173 yards of total offense and held the Ravens to just 12 first downs. Derek Brooks, just how good is this man? He put the exclamation point on the game as the Bucs were leading 18-0 late in the game, and it looked as if the Ravens were driving for a score, and Brooks intercepted the ball at his own 3-yard line and returned it all the way, a 97-yard touchdown. And he also accumulated 4 tackles. What a huge game for the superstar. Credit also goes to Al Singleton. He played fantastic. 10 tackles and helping hold the Ravens' run gain to just 55 yards. Shelton Quarles also played a biggie, as did star defensive backs Barber and Lynch. On the offensive side of the ball, Brad Johnson played excellent, going 24 for 31, completing 77.4% of his passes, mainly sticking to short patterns with 211 yards passing and completing passes to 7 different targets. He didn't throw any touchdown passes, but his play helped set up 3 Martin Gramatica field goals, 1 from 36 yards out and 2 for 30 yards. Going 3 for 3 and hitting 2 converts for 11 points on the day. Nice one for the kicker. Special teams the other way went really well too, as Carl Williams returned a punt 56 yards for a touchdown to make it 10-0 in the first quarter, making himself known on the highlight reels that weekend. And now we're on to Monday Night Football, as the Bucs return home to face a very disappointing St. Louis Rams team. The greatest show on turf was about to get a harsh curtain call this season. Tampa was ready for this Rams offense, and they indeed took them down on prime time in a great showcase of defensive play and won the game 26-14. Bucs fans enjoyed that big win over these powerful defending NFC champions and their historical offense. As a matter of fact, the Tampa defense took Kurt Warner apart, picking off 4 passes from the superstar quarterback. And while one of the greatest offensive powerhouses individually in NFL history, Marshall Faulk, only had 36 yards from scrimmage. And also, it was a rough night from Warner facing some hits. Orlando Pace and the Rams' offensive line, which is normally really good, and their other blockers just couldn't handle the Tampa onslaught, and they allowed 5 sacks on Warner. Derek Brooks is a runaway freight train of success this season, no doubt already. Another interception, another return for a touchdown. This one for 39 yards, again late in the game, ending the Rams' chance of a comeback win, adding 6 tackles as well, and Kean restraining Falk. The rest of the attack was amazing. Simeon Rice had an epic game. Not only did he bring down Warner for a sack, but he had an interception and returned it 30 yards, setting up a touchdown. Dexter Jackson snagged his first pick of the year, returning it 20 yards in the final play of the first half. He also added 7 tackles. Brian Kelly also had an interception early in the fourth quarter, returning at 31 yards to the Rams' goal line, setting up a Mike Allstott touchdown, and he added 6 tackles. Oh, but we're not done with the Bucs defense just quite yet as they continue to sail. Shelton Quarles was in Warner's face quite often. Not only did he get his sack, he also garnered 7 tackles. Warren Sapp, he had a sack, and his jersey and his face were burnt into the retinas of Kurt Warner. Ellis Wims, hey, he put on a lot of pressure as well, playing a beauty and adding a sack. While the Tampa secondary had their issues with Torrey Holt, but thanks to Rondé Barber and company, megastar Isaac Bruce had a very long day, and Barber had 12 tackles. As for the Tampa offense, Johnson played a smart game, completing nearly 72% of his passes, no interceptions, and 8 different targets. Tampa stays hot, destroying the lowly Cincinnati Bengals on the road, 35-7. The Bucs defense again was sharp, holding the Bengals to a mere 168 total yards and 11 first downs. Warren Sapp was his ferocious self, making the Bengals look like kittens out there. Quarterback Achilles Smith might as well have just ended his career already at this point, as the Bucs made his day miserable. Sapp registered 2 sacks and added a few more tackles. Shelton Quarles was fantastic as well, as he intercepted a pass and he returned it all the way 25 yards for a touchdown, making it 21-7. He was a nightmare as well for superstar running back Corey Dillon, who's actually held to 59 yards on 21 carries, and Quarles' tackles total in this one was 6. And hey, look, there's Derek Brooks again. Also proved to be a thorn in every side of Corey Dillon, and had a great game, 5 tackles and adding a sack. And Rod Woodson is not the only candidate for Defensive Player of the Year at this point. The Bucs offense again kept things moving okay. Brad Johnson did throw some bad passes, including 2 picks, but his biggest play of the game was a 65-yard touchdown pass to Keenan McCardle, who in total had 4 catches for 108 yards. The Bucs then win their 4th in a row, downing what ended up being a pretty good Atlanta Falcons team by the end of the year, 20-6. All the more impressive as the Falcons had one of the best offenses in the league, led by superstar quarterback Michael Vick and former Bucs star running back Warwick Dunn. The Bucs held their offense at just 173 yards. Dwight Smith was the star in this one. He intercepted 2 passes, both coming up in the clutch in the fourth quarter, stopping an attempted Falcons comeback, and one even led to a field goal. And the class of 95 has a tremendous performance. Derek Brooks, yet another interception, and a huge 7 tackles in helping contain former teammate Dunn. Sapp and Brooks made an amazing play together on the Falcons 15. Backup quarterback Doug Johnson threw an interception to Sapp, but he's about to be taken down right away, but he saw Derek Brooks and made a lateral, and Brooks returned at 15 yards for a touchdown, which made it 20-6. Simeon Rice continues to have a great year. He had 1.5 sacks, easy for me to say, and adding 4 tackles. Brian Kelly hit a nice blitz sack and had 4 tackles as well. Also, Alice Williams played another excellent outing, a sack and 3 tackles. Also, Barbara Lynch and Quarles all played big once again as well. And hey, the offense still did what they had to do, and Johnson made some good plays again. But the biggest was a 76-yard touchdown pass to Keyshawn Johnson. That gave the Bucs a 10-6 lead, and they never looked back. Overall, Johnson had 6 catches, Keyshawn that is, for 131 yards, playing his biggest game of the year so far. Then the Bucs make it 5 straight wins. Back at home as the defense does the job again, the 17-3 win over the Cleveland Browns. As once again, they held another team under 200 yards of total offense and 11 first downs. Warren Sapp stays red hot as quarterback Tim Couch was seeded heavily by Sapp twice. He also had an overall 6 tackles on the day and helped hold Cleveland's running game to just 60 yards. Rondé Barber continues to play excellently. He had his first interception of the year and added 6 tackles as he, Lynch, and the gang put a lock on the Browns' receiving core. The linebackers are doing their thing once again as Derek Brooks and Shelton Quarles both played well over par. Both of them had 8 tackles and again made the Browns' sad running game even sadder. Brad Johnson didn't play well, but the backfield certainly produced big time in this one as Michael Pittman, who actually has produced really well so far and consistently this season, had 5 catches for 95 yards, averaging 19 yards per catch, and he added 53 yards on the ground with a total of 148 yards from scrimmage. And Mike Alstott had his best outing so far this year, and he was his familiar bulldozing self, joining for 126 yards rushing on 17 carries, and scored both touchdowns in this one, including a 25-yarder. He averaged 7.4 yards a carry. A huge game for the superstar, making much of the Browns' defense and showing he can still be a driving force on any given Sunday. The Bucs now sit at 5-1. However, a revamped New Orleans Saints squad are right there with them with the identical record, as the Panthers and Falcons sit below. And the one loss to the Bucs that they suffered was to the Saints. And now we go back to Oakland, who of course were riding a 4-game winning streak to start the season at 4-0 when we last left them. That very same disappointing Rams team, who is now without Kurt Warner, stunned the Raiders, handing them their first loss of the year, and the Rams getting their first win, 28-13, as Marshall Faulk almost single-handedly destroyed the Raiders' defense. Turnovers were also quite costly. Gannon went 30 for 45, completing 2/3 of his passes, but threw 2 interceptions as well, both of which came in the fourth quarter, one leading to a Rams touchdown. He had 332 yards total, but the Raiders' blockers had a rough game as Rich suffered 4 sacks. Jerry Rice played another beauty, however, 7 catches for 133 yards, averaging 19 yards per catch. Garner played pretty well, but Tim Brown was well covered most of the game. A rough loss, but nobody's really panicking at this point. Okay, well, might be time to have a slight panic as the Raiders drop a tough 27-21 overtime loss to division rival San Diego Chargers, who now sit at 6-1, first place in the AFC West. So once again, the Raiders' rushing defense was awful. LaDainian Tomlinson pretty much single-handedly took them down. They were down 14-0 at one point, and Gannon engineered an 82-yard late-game drive to tie the game 21-21 with 1:26 to play, but the Raiders never got the ball in overtime. This one was puzzling, as Gannon played very well. He did have 1 interception, but actually didn't cost the Raiders any points. Certainly turnover of the game. Their star QB did his thing. He was 35 for 45, 361 yards, 3 touchdowns, and once again showed calmness under pressure, but again was sacked 3 times and faced constant pressure to boot. And his targets were certainly there. Jerry Rice caught 9 passes for 86 yards and scored a 4-yard touchdown. Tim Brown had 6 catches for 83 yards. Charlie Garner had 7 catches for 80. Despite the woes of the rushing defense, at least there were others in the Raiders defense doing their job. Eric Barton did garner 2 sacks on Chargers quarterback Drew Brees, added 9 tackles to boot, and Rod Woodson proved himself to be the usual expert coverer that he is, added 7 tackles. Then the Raiders dropped their 3rd straight loss. What is happening? As now it was division rivals Kansas City. The Chiefs got the better of them 20-10. The Chiefs now moved to 4-4 and are on the Raiders' tail. And yet again, a running back gets the better of them in Priest Holmes. But the blame also has to fall on the offense, who turned the ball over twice. Janikowski is missing some key field goals lately, and Gannon just couldn't get the ball in field goal range a lot of the times in this one. But despite not being one of his better games, Gannon still completed 35 of his passes, through 28 completions, however, and many of them were actually quite awful. He did throw a touchdown and 1 pick and total 334 yards. Tim Brown was the star receiver this week, as he caught an insane 13 passes for 144 yards, always finding ways to get open. And Rice was actually well covered by the Chiefs, which is crazy considering the Chiefs have one of the worst passing defenses in the league. Either way, 36-year-old Brown delivering after all these years. And indeed, some members of the defense were doing their thing. Rod Coleman played a great game with 2 sacks, adding 5 tackles. Bill Romanowski had an interception and 7 tackles. Tony Bryant had a sack and 5 tackles, while backup Terrence Shaw had his first pick of the year and garnered 4 tackles himself. But the defense gets some good news. Charles Woodson's actually returning to the lineup for the next game. But the Raiders, who started the season with 4 straight wins, suffer their 4th straight loss. This is crazy. Another loss in overtime. They drop a 23-20 decision to an excellent San Francisco 49ers team in overtime. And the Niners' strategy was simple. They knew their defense was barely mediocre, so the best thing to do, keep the Raiders' offense off the field. The Niners held the ball for just over 44 and a half minutes out of the 68 that were played and wore out the Raiders' good defense. And it wasn't a running back this time that got to them. It was their strategist quarterback, Jeff Garcia, and Jerry Rice's former teammate, Terrell Owens, who had 191 yards receiving. Not good. The Raiders actually got lucky to even get to overtime, as the Niners missed a last-second field goal in the 4th quarter, but there's really not much point. Gannon, again, never got the ball in OT, which was nearly 9 minutes long. Yeah, this looks like a bad game any other night, but he just really wasn't on the field much. Gannon was 18 for 28 for 164 yards and a touchdown. The Raiders' defense did what they could, but it was clear that they were gasping for air by the end of this one. Charles Woodson did look great in his return, recovering a fumble that set up a Raiders touchdown, and he added 8 tackles. Rod Woodson had 9 tackles on the day, and Eric Barton had 12, and grizzled vet Romanowski had 9. Yep, okay, now it's time to panic. The Raiders have not only lost 4 in a row, they share the worst record in the AFC West with the Kansas City Chiefs, while the red-hot Broncos and Chargers share the best at 6-2. How did this happen? Some say the Raiders' run defense has, of course, let them down, and the Niners exposed their weakness. And the lack of Raiders' own running game, shall we say, hasn't helped much either, despite a good season from Charlie Garner. Well, now we go back to Tampa, who's running a 5-game winning streak when we last left them. Actually, their hot streak comes to an end as they drop a loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, 20-10. And despite having star quarterback Donovan McNabb's number, running back Deuce Staley pretty much made their night hell. The Bucs' offense was stymied much of the day, and their offensive line allowed 5 sacks. But it was the Tampa defense that still kept them going throughout this thing, as Brian Kelly played very well with an interception and added 5 tackles, as being one of the more underrated members of the Tampa secondary. And big plays coming from Brooks and Rice. It sounds like a pop duo. Derek Brooks had 5 tackles, as did Simeon Rice, and Tampa's biggest play of the game came thanks to both of them, as Rice sacked Donovan McNabb, who fumbled, and Brooks picked it up and ran it in 11 yards for a touchdown. Wow. Hopefully this is just a minor setback. And actually, that's exactly what it was. Well, it was an ugly win to come back over their division rivals, the Carolina Panthers. And the Bucs didn't look good for a while there. They were down 9-3 going into the 4th quarter. was their offense, while playing better, was still having trouble finding the end zone as well as field goal range. It should be noted that Brad Johnson was out for this game and Rob Johnson played instead and had a so-so outing. Either way, Tampa moves to 6-2 after 8 games. But Martin Gramatica was indeed the hero of this one. He was 4 for 4, accounting for all his team's points, and was the man behind the comeback. His first field goal was a 32-yarder earlier in the game, but his 3 fourth-quarter field goals were very long distances of 52, 53, and the game-winning 47-yarder with 6 seconds to play. Wow. But the defense, holding the Panthers to just 130 yards of total offense at just 9 first downs. Simeon Rice was vicious, making life hell for poor Randy Fasani, sacking him twice, and also garnering 5 total tackles. He's having a tremendous year. Warren Sapp also played a great game up front. And John Lynch, who's been having a very good season once again, has 2 interceptions on the day. Wow, frustrating Carolina receivers through and through. His second pick came on a last-second Hail Mary attempt, ending the Panthers' chance of a miracle win. Being here since 1993 with the Bucs, it must be oh so good to be part of a great defense and a great team overall. Also, Brian Kelly snagged another interception. Sheldon Quarles is having a career season. He seems to be close to every single play, and in this game, it's no different. He had a total of 10 tackles, and again, proves to be another underrated member of this Tampa defense. Next up, they return home and face the Minnesota Vikings in Week 9 and move to 7-2. Despite being without wideout Keenan McCardle, this was the best performance in their offense all season so far, winning the game 38-24. Brad Johnson returned with a vengeance and played a beauty. 24 for 31, 313 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, no picks, wasn't sacked once. Truly showing what he can do out there and controlled the ball for over 33 minutes. His top target this game was Keyshawn Johnson, who had 9 catches for 133 yards, about 14.8 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns, one from 2 yards out and the other from 19. And he also had some big 20-plus yard catches and some key short pattern ones as well. He made his case for the highlight reels on this night. And tight end Ken Dilger, who has been playing quite well for the Bucs at tight end, had quite the game himself with 3 catches for 61 yards, including an 18-yarder that helped set up the Bucs' second touchdown of the day, and a huge 40-yarder that set up another touchdown, and that made it 31-10. The Vikings did attempt to come back and got some points on the board, but the Tampa defense still had some standout performances. Simeon Rice keeps sizzling, 2 more sacks, bringing out Dante Culpepper hard to the turf and being in his face all day play after play. He also forced a fumble. Ronde Barber provided that expert coverage and had 8 tackles and added a sack with a great blitz play. Warren Sapp garnered a shocking interception that more or less ended any chance of a Minnesota comeback at the time of the game, leading to the touchdown that made it 38-17. Al Singleton also notched a pick in this one. The Bucs sit at 7-2. The Saints are still on their tail with a bye week at 6-2. And the Falcons, they've been quite hot lately. But with Tampa's offense looking more alive than ever, can they continue to stay at the top? Week 10, the Bucs suddenly had their bye week. That was also the week the Oakland Raiders will attempt to end their puzzling 4-game-losing streak. And yes, it's Monday Night Football, and they are headed into Denver to face their division rivals, the Broncos, who have been red hot this year, sitting at 6-2 and have momentum on their side. This is a must-win for the Raiders. They need to get back on track before the Broncos or even the Chargers can take control of this division. Denver indeed has a very strong offense. Can Oakland end this skid? Do they ever? Sending a harsh and emphatic message on the road to their rivals. They destroyed the Broncos 34-10. The Raiders garnering close to 400 yards of offense. They were fully in control in this one. Clinton Portis, who is the Broncos' rookie rushing sensation, was held to just 50 yards on 14 carries, while quarterback Brian Griese was sacked 4 times and threw a very costly interception. And why is that? Because Rod Woodson returned it 98 yards all the way for a touchdown. What a huge year he is having, and that huge play put him all over the TV once again, as he has been since 1987, and made it 10-0 Raiders in a game that really wasn't in much doubt after that. The other Woodson, being Charles, played a tremendous outing as well. But the Raiders up front made Greasy's night a living hell as well. Eric Barton continues to have a superb season. Not only did he get a sack here and add tackles, Trevion Smith, who has been making the most of his field time, added a sack, as did veteran Trace Armstrong, a former Pro Bowler for the Miami Dolphins. And little used Junior Ione recorded his first and only solo sack of his career. Hey, everyone's contributing. But the offense. The offense. Rich Gannon perhaps played the best game so far this year, completing 34 of 38 passes. That's nearly 89.5%. Totaling 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And you weren't keeping off the field in this one, as the Broncos simply didn't have the means. Another banner game for the rich man, and he was named Offensive Player of the Week for the AFC. And to no surprise, Jerry Rice and Charlie Garner are his 2 go-to men. Rice caught 9 passes for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns, one from 6 yards out, making it 21-7, and the other from 34 yards out to put the final nail in the coffin that made it 34-10. Garner had 7 catches for 89 yards, and another great game for him. Can the Raiders build on this new momentum and fully renew their winning ways? And they do, as they get a bit of, so sweet revenge on a team that many feel robbed them of a possible Super Bowl run. The defending Super Bowl champion, New England Patriots, 27-20. They held New England's top 10 offense to under 200 yards and just 12 first downs. Sophomore starter Tom Brady and Gannon didn't quite have the showdown people were expecting or hoping for even. Neither played outright terrible. Both threw 12 incompletions, neither threw a touchdown, but Gannon threw a pick, but had more yards and threw more passes than Brady, who himself was sacked 4 times. The pass normally good offensive line was taken apart, and Brady had trouble moving the ball. Either way, for Gannon, this had to feel really good more than anything. And the Raiders' offensive force was, hey, look, Charlie Garner. 15 carries, 57 yards, and 7 catches for 65 yards. Total of 122 yards from scrimmage. And I'd have to say, not getting the recognition across the league he deserves, but hey, they love him in the Bay Area. Also on special teams, Marcus Knight played a tremendous game on 4 kick returns, had 81 yards, averaging 20.3 yards per return. Now to the defense, the Woodson boys provided expert coverage. Charles and Rod provides to be a lethal combo out there. They may not be related, but they certainly play like they've known each other their whole lives. And once again, up front, all working together. Brady didn't know what hit him. Trevion Smith played amazingly with a sack and 5 tackles. Rod Coleman, Lawrence Grant, and backup Chris Cooper had a sack each. And yes, I'd say the panic is officially over as the Raiders win their 3rd in a row, taking down the lowly Arizona Cardinals, winning 41-20, over 500 yards worth of offense. While they did have trouble with Arizona's running game, it didn't matter by the end, as Oakland never trailed once in this game, getting that big win. Gannon again led the attack, of course, 27 for 45, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. He is having an epic year and showing that he is truly one of the best in the league. But wow, Charlie Garner, having a banner season himself, has proved to be a huge piece of this amazing puzzle that is the Raiders' offense. 16 carries for 100 yards, averaging 6.25 yards per carry, and a touchdown, including an 8-yard TD run that put the Raiders up 14-0. He also had 5 catches for 85 yards, one of them a 40-yard catch that set up a field goal, totaling 185 yards from scrimmage. And this offense had more big producers. Surprise, surprise. Jerry Rice has another 100-yard game, 7 catches for 110 yards in this one, including a 37-yard touchdown, which made it 35-14. Tyrone Wheatley had 13 carries for 82 yards for his best scouting of the year so far, and also had a touchdown from 2 yards out. That made it 28-14. Also, Jerry Porter had 2 touchdowns in this one. Despite their struggles against the run, against the pass, the Raiders, however, were sharp on the defense. Eric Barton continues to thrive. An interception this time, which set up Garner's touchdown, and added 11 tackles. Torrey James had a late-game interception as well, as Rod Coleman and Sam Adams each had a sack and didn't give Jake Plummer any rest, that's for sure. And there it is, another 4-game winning streak, putting them at 8-4 as the Raiders had now a thrilling win over a determined New York Jets squad, led by prospect quarterback Chad Pennington and Pro Bowl running back Curtis Martin. The Raiders didn't give Martin anything to work with whatsoever in this one, as they finally were toppled a running game and came out on top 26-20 in another Monday Night Football win. Gannon played another beauty, 31 for 42, 342 yards, and a touchdown. As now MVP talks with a veteran QB has started to brew up, and it's easy to see why. And Gannon's targets were delivering well. Tim Brown, who had been somewhat quiet, caught 8 passes for 90 yards. Jerry Rice caught 4 passes for 66 yards, including a 26-yard touchdown, while Garner caught 9 passes for 60 yards and added 52 rushing. Kicker Sebastian Janikowski was delivering this one as well, going 4 for 4 on field goal attempts from 23, 48, 36, and 29 yards out, and added 2 converts for a total of a 14-point day. The Raiders' defense had some big performances again as well. Rod Woodson garners his 5th interception of the year. This was on the final play of the game, with the Jets attempting to score a big winning touchdown. He also blocked a field goal earlier in the game as well. Rod Coleman had a sack and a half in this one, putting his weight out there, while Eric Barton continues to thrive with a sack and 9 tackles. But Charles Woodson is hurt again in this one and will only play one of the remaining 4 games in the regular season. Can the Raiders keep up this huge momentum? And there it is, 5th win in a row, and a huge win over the division rival Chargers on the road, with identical 8-4 record each going into it. And they dominate 27-7. The Raiders were tremendous on both sides of the ball in this one, as they made life hell for Drew Brees. And a big part of that is a Rod Woodson surprise. Another interception, this one setting up a field goal and also putting together 6 tackles, as he proves to be a huge leader on this Raiders team for their defense. Terrence Shaw and Torrey James also each had interceptions. Shaw's coming in the second quarter, and James is coming in the third quarter after setting up a touchdown to make it 21-7. And hey, more great performances on defense, as the Raiders actually, unlike their previous outing with the Chargers, had LaDainian Tomlinson's number in this one, limiting the youngster to just 57 yards on 18 carries. Eric Barton was a big part of that with 10 tackles and was in the face of Brees and Tomlinson all day. Grizzled vet Bill Romanowski frustrated the man they call LT, well, the second LT, and had 9 tackles on the day. Meanwhile, Rod Coleman, sack and a half, continues to play excellently, as Brees was constantly on the run from him as well. In the Raiders offense, the offense, of course they're on their game. Gannon had another 300-plus yard game, giving 2 receivers over 100 yards. And of course, Jerry Rice is one of them. 7 catches, 113 yards, including a huge 56-yard catch that set up a touchdown. While tight end Doug Jolly had his best game of his career at this point, making big plays with 6 catches for 104 yards, averaging 17.3 yards per catch. Indeed, this was their biggest win of the year so far, simply because it officially puts them back in first place, and again, a win over a division rival that's a threat to you, well, it's always huge. And these 5 games, they actually look more complete and more dangerous than they did in their 4-game winning streak that started the season. The Broncos have collapsed, the Chiefs are inconsistent. But now, we go back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We last left them, they were 7-2, and had back-to-back wins. And hey, they indeed win their 3rd in a row. After a bye week in week 10, they return. Downing their division rivals, the Panthers, at home 23-10. Tampa controlled the pace for much of this one, for time of possession nearly 36 minutes as well, not giving the Panthers much of a chance, and it was a very strategic outing, as Brad Johnson played a smart game. But yes, it's that defense. Oh, that defense. Derek Brooks continued to have a career banner season, as he was everywhere on the field where the ball seemed to be going. In this game, he had 12 tackles, and it helped hold the Panthers' rushing game very limited, and was key in stopping them to just 14 first downs, and made some great pass coverage plays as well. And the Bucs had 3 picks on the day, 1 each from Brian Kelly, Dwight Smith, and John Lynch. Kelly's came in the first quarter, Smith's came in the third quarter, which set up Keenan McCardle's touchdown that broke the 10-10 tie. And Lynch's interception came in the fourth, setting up a field goal that put the game away. Simeon Rice continues to sizzle, as he's a Panther killer once again. 2-sack game, these ones on Rodney Peete, and he, along with Sapp, Wims, and Spears, put on constant pressure on the poor soul. Aaron Stecker was tremendous on special teams and deserves credit. 3 kick returns for 73 yards, including a 31-yarder that helped begin a drive later, setting up a field goal to tie the game, and he averaged 24.3 yards per return. But can the Bucs keep moving with more wins? And yes, they do! Another victory. 4th in a row. Downing the 8-2 Green Bay Packers at home, 21-7. Shutting down Green Bay's powerful offensive pass attack, led by the great Brett Favre. intercepting him 4 times and sacking him 3, infiltrating the usually excellent Packers offensive line and blockers. Simeon Rice, what more can you say? He's the double man, another 2 sacks, doing that for the 4th consecutive game. Just ridiculous. He also had a pass knockdown and added 5 tackles. Maybe it's time to throw his name in terms of candidacy a Defensive Player of the Year, But also stealing the show in this one is Brian Kelly. 2 interceptions. First game in the third quarter, returned all the way to the Packer 18, sneaking up a touchdown that made it 14-7. The second came late in the fourth quarter, ending any chance of a Packer comeback. What a year he's having now. Ronde Barber continues to have a great year himself with another pick, and Dexter Jackson also had one, which he returned 58 yards, setting up a Ken Dillier touchdown that made it 21-7. And of course, those vicious linebackers, Derek Brooks playing another beauty, totaling up 12 tackles, and just an unbelievable force out there again on pass coverage too. While Shelton Quarles continues to have a career season with 10 tackles, really showing how important he is to this lineup. The Bucs offense was solid as well. Brad Johnson had 2 touchdown passes and no interceptions. Can the Bucs match their 5-game win streak? Well, no. They drop another loss to division rivals, New Orleans Saints, 23-20. The Bucs turned the ball over 3 times. They missed a field goal, got sacked 4 times, and the third turnover was in the fourth quarter, which probably proved to be the end, as Brad Johnson threw a bad pick that led to the Saints setting up a field goal, putting them up by 11 points. Even though the Bucs got a touchdown and a 2-point conversion with 2:54 left, the Saints smartly were able to kill the clock. It was, however, a great game for Keenan McCardle. 11 catches for 107 yards and scored that late comeback attempt touchdown. He has proven to provide a bit more of a spark for Tampa's offense this season despite some injury issues. However, as for Simeon Rice, he didn't record 2 sacks in this game because he had 3, giving him 11 sacks in the last 5 games. His jersey colors were tattooed on Aaron Brooks by the end of this one. He was just fierce up there, playing his heart out, play after play after play. Again, he truly deserves a lot more recognition than he gets. But the Bucs bounce right back again, getting a huge 34-10 win over division rivals Atlanta Falcons back at home. The defense roared back huge in this one, while the Falcons had just 10 first downs in under 200 yards of offense, while the Bucs offense came alive in this one as well. This was an excellent performance from Brad Johnson in this one, 23 for 31, 276 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And after this win, some pointed out that Brad may not be the best quarterback in the league and may not be on the level of Gannon, but he's one of the most focused and disciplined. However, his top receiver this week wasn't Keyshawn or Keenan, even though the latter did have 2 touchdowns, but it was Joe Jurevicius. Yes, I know some of you are scratching your heads, but Joe was a former New York Giant for the prior 4 seasons and was coming off a pretty good year in 2001, but this year's been mainly used as a backup, but a very reliable one, I should say. But he had his big day in this one, 8 catches for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. The opening 2 touchdowns of the game, as a matter of fact, from 10 and 13 yards out. Mike Allstott put on a great performance in this one. 13 carries for 95 yards, averaging 7.3 yards per carry. Wow. And once again, showing he's determined to get this team that he's been with oh so long to be a winner in the very end. But hey, the defense. Dexter Jackson got another interception, returned at 21 yards to the Falcons 10, which set up the second touchdown that made it 14-0. He's just been on an absolute roll. Well, Greg Spires had the lone sack of the game, as Michael Vick is indeed a hard guy to chase down on any given night, but he got to him once. Also, however, the Bucs defense does deserve credit that Vick wasn't able to get much of his scrambling and running game going for any of the plays that he likes to make. Derek Brooks was a big reason for that. The dominant one had 10 tackles on the day, and also a good game from backup Nate Webster, who was all over Vick and had 6 tackles. So the Bucs now stand at 10-3, still in first place in the NFC South with 3 games remaining. It seems with the few losses they suffer, they always just come back stronger. And you just can't unrattle this bunch with their strict yet intense play on the field. The Saints, however, are still on their tail at 9-4. The Falcons, despite their loss, are not out by any means whatsoever. The Panthers are more or less toast. But the Bucs and Raiders, well, they look playoff bound, obviously, and they look playoff ready. But let's see if they can take their respective divisions as we now head back to Oakland. The Raiders, however, saw their big 5-game winning streak snapped at the hands of the Miami Dolphins, a team who themselves are trying to get into the playoffs. The Raiders lost 23-17 on the road as the Dolphins used the same strategy the Niners did, and keep Gannon and the offense off the field as much as they could, so they held the ball for 36 out of 60 minutes. But it was probably Gannon's worst performance of the year, and that's still saying something when he still just went 17 for 31 for 204 yards, a touchdown, and a costly interception at the end of the fourth quarter that pretty much ended the game. Rod Coleman was excellent in this one in a losing effort, garnering 2 sacks and putting on great pressure, as the Dolphins do have an excellent offensive line, and he put excellent pressure on Jay Fiedler. The good news is the Chargers, however, lost, but the Broncos won and kept their hopes alive. But the Raiders didn't dwell. They roared right back the next week and moved to 10-5 with a 28-16 win at home over the Broncos. And the Chargers lose, meaning the Oakland Raiders, for the 3rd straight year, win the AFC West Division title. The big star on offense was Charlie Garner. 7 carries, 61 yards. That's 8.7 yards per carry. He had 8 catches for 91 yards, including an 8-yard touchdown pass, 152 yards of scrimmage overall. Tim Brown had 6 catches for 79 yards, averaging 13.2 yards per catch. Now he has 899 receiving yards on the season. He'll need 101 to keep his active 1,000-yard streak going alive. But the hero of the game was veteran Trace Armstrong. 1, 2, 3 sacks. But he also had an interception early in the game, later setting up Gannon's 3-yard plunge, putting up the Raiders 14-0. Seems everyone on the Raiders is playing a big role. And the rest of the defense is on top of things too. Rod Woodson garnered another interception, which set up the Raiders' 3rd touchdown. Eric Barton garnered an interception in the 4th, stalling a comeback attempt from the Broncos. Rod Coleman and Travion Smith each had a sack, while Bill Romanowski had a sack and also collected 9 tackles. Well, with the AFC West in their full grasp, let's see if Tampa can do the same in the NFC South. Well, they did have trouble with the lowly Lions in Detroit, but still pulled off a 23-20 win. And they moved to 11-3. Still have a nice grip on first place, as the Falcons have lost their chance for a division title, while the Saints, despite losing, are still in the thick of it. Keyshawn Johnson was the top star on offense once again. Another excellent game, 6 catches, 90 yards, averaging 15 yards per catch. He is having another banner year as a Buck. Aaron Stecker played another beauty on special teams, returning the opening kickoff 67 yards, setting up the opening field goal, and overall returned a total of 5 kicks for 148 yards. Sheldon Quarles garnered an interception, which set up a Michael Pittman touchdown that broke a 13-13 tie. He added 6 tackles as he continues to have the best season of his career. Rondé Barber had a beautiful outing this week as well, being a force against the passing game with great coverage and also registering a sack on Mike McMahon. This Tampa defense again coming through. But the Bucs go into the next game without Brad Johnson, as backups Rob Johnson and Sean King take over. The former does better than the latter, but the Bucs still get stomped by the Steelers at home, 17-7. All of the Steelers' points were scored in the first quarter, as the Bucs trailed 14-0 just 4 minutes in. But good news, with the Saints' loss this week, the Bucs have won the NFC South, just their 4th division title in their team history and first since 1999. And once again, Keyshawn Johnson is the big star on offense, catching 8 passes for 132 yards, including an 18-yard touchdown pass, the lone score of the game for the Bucs, averaging a total of 16.5 yards per catch. Wow. Rondé Barber and Simeon Rice each had a sack on the day, and both played a tremendous game. But it was Derek Brooks who once again stood out with 13 tackles and a forced fumble. Now let's see how Oakland wraps up their regular season. And hey, it was with an easy 24-0 shutout win over the Chiefs at home on a Saturday, holding KC to just 176 yards of total offense, 11 first downs. The Raiders finished the year 11-5. Gannon only threw 14 passes and used the running game this whole time, and it allowed Charlie Garner to have the best rushing performance of the year. Well, his year, that is, with 29 carries for 135 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, and a touchdown. And again, capping off perhaps the best year of his career. Other rushers helped this game flow. Backup Zach Crockett had 11 carries for 72 yards, averaging 6.5 yards per carry, while Tyron Wheatley had 69 yards on 17 carries, including an 8-yard touchdown run. And Rod Woodson snagged his 8th interception of the season, playing yet another beauty, setting up a drive for a touchdown to make it 14-0. Another member of the Raiders proving that age is indeed just a number, giving veteran leadership and depth this highly improved defense. Now let's see how the Bucs wrap up their season. And they too end their season with a win and a shutout, downing the boring Bears 15-0, finishing this season 12-4. But they did keep Brad Johnson on the sidelines well rested as he's still nursing some injuries, but will be ready come playoff time. And what an epic game for kicker Martin Gramatica, who accounted for all 15 points, going 5 for 5 on field goals, hitting 2 33-yarders, a 26, a 30, and a 32-yarder as well. He caps off an excellent year himself. Michael Pittman was the top offensive weapon in this game, 21 carries for 90 yards, and proved to be a very good addition to the Bucs offense this season. And yes, of course, the defense. Brian Kelly played a beauty, capping off a huge year. 2 interceptions, one setting up a field goal. And speaking of great seasons, Derek Brooks had one for the ages in another huge game. He guarded another interception, returning at 44 yards, setting up one of the field goals, and added 6 tackles. Well, indeed, the regular season is done. The Raiders started hot, cooled down, but heated up again and never really looked back. The Bucs pretty much stayed consistent all year. The few losses they suffered, it just motivated them even more so. But that's all finished now. Both teams have earned their bye to the divisional round, and it's now playoff time. We start with the Bucs as they take on the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC divisional round. The Niners, of course, led by Pro Bowl quarterback Jeff Garcia and the phenomenal Terrell Owens at receiver, Jerry Rice's former teammates. And their respective skills could be quite a bit tough for the Bucs defense, even as good as they are to handle. San Fran has a so-so defense, which might be able to handle Tampa's so-so offense. Niners are coming off a thrilling wildcard win over the New York Giants, 39-38. But there was very little to no problem for the Bucs disposing of the Niners, thrashing them 31-6 at home, disarming Garcia and Tio, as the latter only had 35 yards on 4 catches. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for just the 3rd time in their history, are going to the NFC Championship. Derek Brooks continues to be the man. Not only did he have 7 tackles, but his pass coverage also helped keep T.O. from doing any damage. His interception in this one at the San Francisco 26 later set up Mike Allstott's touchdown. He also recovered a fumble. The defense continues to thrive as a whole. Rondé Barber snagged an interception late in the game and garnered 4 tackles. Dwight Smith had an interception and 6 tackles. His pick coming in the 3rd quarter, setting up the final nail in the coffin, the field goal that made it 31-6. And yeah, that whole defensive core, everyone was on point. This one, Simeon Rice garners a sack, as do Singleton and Spires, as they, along with Sapp, were in Garcia's face, constantly frustrating him all game long. Shelton Quarles also played a beauty with 9 tackles on the day. As for the offense, Brad Johnson played okay, but the weapons were Mike Allstott and Keyshawn Johnson. Allstott had 17 carries for 60 yards and had 2 touchdowns, both from 2 yards out, while Keyshawn had 5 catches for 85 yards, averaging 17 yards per catch and playing a beauty overall. Now let's go to the AFC divisional round and check on our Raiders. And indeed, the Oakland Raiders are hosting the New York Jets. The Jets finished the season 9-7, but the Raiders' win over them earlier this year ended their 4-game winning streak. They, however, stunned Peyton Manning and the Colts, shocking them with a 41-0 shutout win. Their offense is pretty good. Their defense, pretty good. Enough to beat the Raiders? Nah. The Raiders dominate this one 30-10. Once again, ending the only thing Jets fans ever have, a hope and a prayer. The Jets turned the ball over 4 times, and Pennington took a beating thanks to the Raiders' defense. But yes, the Oakland Raiders, for the 2nd time in 3 seasons, make the AFC Championship. A great performance from the defense in this one. Eric Barton had an interception offsetting a Jets interception, setting up a Janikowski field goal, making it 30-10. My man Torrey James also had a pick, and it set up a 29-yard Jerry Rice touchdown. And the coverage, of course, made even greater by the Woodsons, as Charles is back in action, Rod being his usual self, and both of them played a tremendous outing. Speaking of Rods, Rod Coleman led a great attack on Pennington. He garnered a sack and a half and added 4 tackles. Also, Travion Smith proves to be an X-factor for the Raiders, adding a sack and 7 big tackles, while Regan Upshaw, who's also played a pretty good role this season, had a sack himself. Anthony Dorsett also played a beauty with 9 tackles on the tail of Curtis Martin constantly. But now the offense. Oh, the offense. Rich Gannon played well, 20 for 30, 283 yards, a touchdown and a pick. His quest to be the best, however, continues. The top receiver was Jerry Porter in this one, 6 catches, 123 yards, with a 29-yard touchdown, and an average of 20.5 yards per catch, proving to be the backup weapon for Rice, Brown, and Garner. However, the latter carried the ball 93 yards on this one. Now we go to the NFC Championship. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers now have to travel to face the Philadelphia Eagles in order to get to their first ever Super Bowl. The Eagles are one of the 3 teams that beat the Bucs this season, and the Eagles are actually favored to win this game. The only defense better than their Eagles was Tampa's. Their offense was 4th best in the league, led by quarterback Donovan McNabb. They dominated the Falcons 20-6 in the divisional round, but they certainly don't do that to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs win it convincingly, 27-10, and for the first time in their history, they have at long last made it to the dance, the Super Bowl. Over 25 years of sadness, with a few glimpses of false hope, have come down to this. And Rondé Barber was a big hero in this one. Not only did he register a sack on McNabb, but late in the game with the Eagles trailing 20-10 and attempting a comeback and still having a bit of time, they're in the Tampa red zone. Barber, however, read the pattern perfectly, intercepting a pass at the 8-yard line. He's still going. He could go all the way, and he does. Touchdown. Rid the game out of reach and pretty much sending his team to the big game. 92-yard return. Simeon Rice played another beauty in McNabb's face every which way he could be and recorded a sack in which McNabb fumbled and Rice recovered. He has surely been one of the keys to why Tampa is arriving at their big destination. And of course, so is this man, Derek Brooks, held the contained Eagles' 1,000-yard rusher Deuce Staley and garnered 7 tackles and was again a big pass cover, frustrating McNabb and the rest of the offense. The rebuild truly began with him and Warren Sapp, and now they're both headed to the Super Bowl for the first time. And hey, you know what the offense did their part, including quarterback Brad Johnson. Played pretty well, went 20 for 33, 259 yards, a touchdown and a pick, and threw a 71-yard pass to Double J, Joe Javerkis, that set up a Mike Allstott touchdown. It gave the Bucs a 10-7 lead. Johnson gets to prove himself now in the big game. But now we go to the AFC Championship. The Oakland Raiders' last obstacle will be at home against the Tennessee Titans, a team they beat 52-25 earlier this year, and a lot of the members of this team are still remaining from the 1999 AFC Championship club. They finished 11-5 and beat the Steelers in a thrilling overtime win. And they were solid on both sides of the ball, but of course, not good enough. And the Raiders win it with a score of 41-24, and for the first time since the 1983 season where they won it, and the 5th time in their history, looking for their 4th championship, they are off to the Super Bowl. The Raiders were calm, aggressive, and most of all, ready for this moment. Now Rich Gannon gets the chance of a lifetime and complete one of the NFL's most unlikely emerging superstar stories. In this game, he went 29 for 41, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And he was a true leader out there to boot, leading with confidence, skill, and most of all, determination and heart. A huge moment for him. And the 2-star legendary receivers delivered as well. Jerry Rice, always delivering in the postseason, 5 catches for 79 yards, and now is going to play in his 4th Super Bowl game, and first as a Raider. He's never lost a Super Bowl in his career. Tim Brown, the Raiders icon, caught 9 passes for 73 yards, and after 15 seasons, is finally getting a chance to play in the big game for the very first time in his quest to obtain that ring. On the defensive side of things, John Perella played a huge game, taking the air out of McNair, garnering a sack, and a total of 7 tackles, leading an attack on the Titans that they had trouble just overcoming from the get-go. And everyone was pulling their weight in this one, including the Woodsons, of course, young Charles, and veteran Rod. They were on perfect point. For Charles, it's his first chance at the dance. For Rod, it'll be his 3rd, having lost 1 and won 1. So now both teams have reached their final destination on this road. It's the one thing to reach it, it's another thing to take it. But before we go there, it's now time for the final numbers. Obviously, when it comes to offense, the Raiders have a very large edge over the Bucs. The Raiders had the number 2 offense in the entire NFL, only behind the Chiefs, while the Bucs were a passable 18th, which may or may not be good enough at all to win it all. The Bucs' passing game is okay at 15th, but despite some improvements to their ground game, they still rank 27th, 6th worse. The Raiders, on the other hand, of course, to no surprise, had the number 1 passing game, and the ground game was 18th. Defense, of course, the Bucs reign supreme, numero uno, number one in the league. The fact is, the Raiders have the 6th best, and perhaps the most improved overall. Against the run, the Raiders are tremendous at 3rd, but the Bucs are almost as good at 5th. The Raiders, however, struggled a fair bit against the pass, but they had some great defensive backs. But the Bucs have the best pass defense. Could it be enough to get to Gannon? Well, let's look at the players themselves, starting with the defense. We start with the defensive line, as both teams were tied for 6th best in the NFL with 43 sacks. We start with the Bucs. They were, of course, led by Simeon Rice, whose 15.5 sacks were 2nd best in the NFL. Warren Sapp garnered 7.5 and proved once again to be the best pass rushers and pressure men up front. Ellis Wims also lent a big hand, adding more pressure with 5.5 sacks, while Greg Spears played some great games with 3.5 sacks. For the Raiders, Roderick Coleman up front hit 11 sacks, tied for 9th in the league, helped the Raiders win many games. Trace Armstrong lent a huge hand, as did Lawrence Grant. Either way, both teams have some great talent up front, but of course, some of the Raiders' sacks came from their linebackers, which brings us to our next crop. Starting again with the Bucs, Derek Brooks had a truly remarkable season, 118 tackles, and also proved his pass coverage was elite with 5 interceptions. Sheldon Quarles, a fan favorite, had recorded 113 tackles, having the best year of his career, giving the Bucs an edge in many games, while Al Singleton proved to play a vital role for the Bucs. And thanks in large part to these guys, the Bucs gave up the 6th least rushing yards and the 3rd least rushing touchdowns. Meanwhile, on the Raiders, Eric Barton had 6 sacks, 127 tackles, big on the pass rush and attack, and Travion Smith had 5 sacks and 46 tackles. The veteran Bill Romanowski proves to be a smart addition to the club with 91 tackles and 4 sacks, and rookie Napoleon Harris added 81 tackles, and the Raiders gave up the 3rd least rushing yards, despite giving up a fair share of rushing TDs, but most of them, however, were short yardage situations. Now we move to the secondary. With the Bucs, in addition to big help in their linebacking core, especially Brooks, they had the best pass coverage in the league, leading the league in interceptions total with 31, giving up the least passing yards, the least passing touchdowns, just 10. Veteran John Lynch in his 10th season is about to play in his first Super Bowl, produced in a huge way once again with 3 picks and 67 tackles. Rondé Barber had a couple picks and added 79 tackles. Dwight Smith intercepted 4 passes, having a tremendous season, and added 44 tackles. Brian Kelly, however, had a net big season, tied the league lead with 8 interceptions, 67 tackles, and yet was not selected even for the Pro Bowl, let alone a first team All-Pro selection or second team. Sad. The Raiders coverage core, however, has some tremendous talent. 21 interceptions, tied for 5th best in the league. They did give up a fair share of passing yards, but only a mid-number of passing touchdowns. Rod Woodson, of course, as you well know by now, however, was the cornerstone of the defensive backcourt. 16th season, and still an incredible year. 8 interceptions, tied for the league lead with Kelly at 82 tackles, and still providing expert coverage, truly among the elite, and still showing the man who dominated the NFL in the late 80s into the 90s, still in top form. Charles Woodson, despite only playing in 8 games, half of the season, was still on point when healthy. He had a pick and 37 tackles. Torrey James was very underrated and underappreciated by many. 4 interceptions, 45 tackles. And while the Raiders had to rotate many defensive backs throughout the year, their system worked out pretty decent, I'd say, all things considered. But now we move from the defense to special teams. First, the returners, as Tampa had reliable returners on both kicks and punts. From kicks, Aaron Stecker returned the ball 934 yards, 25.2 yards per return, which was 8th best in the NFL. On punts for the Bucs, Carl Williams returned a total of 410 yards and was 5th best in the league, averaging 9.5 yards per return. As for the Raiders, their punt returns weren't exactly the greatest, but their kick returners were. Marcus Knight had a total of 705 yards, averaging 24.3 yards per return. Terry Kirby added 425 yards on kick returns with a 22.4 return average. Now we go to the kickers themselves. Martin Gramatica kicked for 128 points, which was tied for 5th best in the league, and his 82.1 field goal percentage was 10th best in the league. Sebastian Janikowski had actually tied with Gramatica with 128 points for 5th. His 78.8 field goal percentage was due to some big misses during their bit of a slump they had early in the season. But in terms of hunting, Tom Tuba has been a very welcome addition to the Bucs. The longtime journeyman veteran had 42.8 yards per punt, 6th best in the league, while his 3,856 punt yards were 4th best. Shane Leckler played very well, averaging 42.5 yards per punt, and booted 2,251 punt yards. But now we move to the offense. Starting with the men in the trenches, the offensive line. Despite a good year from center Jeff Christie, Tampa gave up the 10th most sacks in the league. The Raiders gave up the 15th most sacks in the league, but there were a couple offensive linemen that allowed Gannon to have the type of year he had, as well as Charlie Garner. And that was longtime Raider Lincoln Kennedy and another longtime Raider Barrett Robbins. Either way, with both teams having strong opposing defensive lines, could play a huge factor in the big game. Now we move to wide receivers. Keyshawn Johnson had a tremendous season with 1,088 yards receiving, his 4,000-yard season, and second with the Bucs. He caught 76 passes and had 14.3 yards per catch and 5 touchdowns. Keenan McCardle, despite missing a couple games, did put up some good numbers: 670 yards receiving, 61 receptions, an average of 11 yards per catch, and 6 touchdowns. But of course, the Raiders win this battle with 2-season legendary vets playing as good as ever. Jerry Rice accumulated 1,211 yards receiving, just short of the top 10. The second straight 1,000-yard season for him as a Raider, and the 14th of his illustrious career. He caught 92 passes, which was 9th best in the league, and averaged 13.2 yards per catch and added 7 touchdowns. Tim Brown, a legendary Raider, had an excellent year with 930 yards receiving, which does end his streak, however, of 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons, but still excellent production regardless. He had 81 receptions, 11.5 yards per catch, caught 2 touchdowns, while Jerry Porter added 688 yards. Now let's take a look at the tight ends, as Ken Dilger of the Bucs was a big addition to the team, making many key plays on short yardage and playing some great games. He had 34 catches for 329 yards, 9.7 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns. The Raiders have split duties between Doug Jolly and Roland Williams, who had 409 and 213 yards receiving respectively. Jolly had 32 receptions, Williams had 27. Jolly got that extra yardage with 12.8 yards per catch, while Williams added a good 7.9, and Jolly had 2 touchdowns. And we move to the backfield, and starting with the Bucs, Michael Pittman did prove to be a good addition for Tampa. 718 yards rushing, 3.5 yards per carry. He was an asset on many occasions in many games, and he also added 477 yards receiving, 59 catches, 8.1 yards per catch, totaling 1,195 yards from scrimmage. Mike Allstott again proves to be one of the strongest backfielders. The bulldozer himself and his blocking abilities proved to be an asset once again, but also added 548 yards rushing, 3.8 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. He added 242 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns in the air, and totaling 7 on the year. But the Raiders had one of the best offensive weapons of the year, and sadly he got no accolades for it. Of course, that was Charlie Garner. 962 yards rushing, 941 yards receiving, 5.3 yards per carry, which was 4th best, 10.3 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns on the run, 4 in the air, totaling 11 on the season. His 91 receptions were tied for 10th best. He totaled 1,903 yards from scrimmage, 5th best in the league. So indeed, the Raiders had the top weapon in the backfield. Tyrone Wheatley was no slouch, adding 419 yards rushing as well. And now to the quarterbacks. Well, I think you know who wins this battle. The NFL's veteran unlikely star, Rich Gannon, who's been playing great ever since joining the Raiders, did have an epic season for the ages. Count it up! 4,689 yards passing, a league best. 26 touchdown passes, 5th best in the league, just 10 interceptions, great ratio. A league best, 418 completions, 67.6 completion percentage, which was 2nd. His 97.3 passer rating was 2nd best as well. At 37 years old, the man is in his true prime. Now to Tampa. Brad Johnson may not be considered among the league's elite quarterbacks, but the idiots and dolts on many social media platforms refer to him as one of the worst Super Bowl starting QBs of all time. And while I'm sure you've all made Tony Easton of the Patriots feel better, you're ignorant and stupid. But he was no slouch. Yeah, he missed 3 games. He still made it to 3,000 yards passing with a total of 3,049. 22 touchdown passes. That was tied for 8th best at just 6 interceptions. A huge ratio. 281 completions, 6th best completion percentage with a 62.3, and his 92.9 passer rating was 3rd, just behind Gannon. Not exactly Trent Dilfer or even Gannon on paper, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, last and most certainly not least, the coaches. These 2 coaches are both connected to one another in a big way. John Gruden, who spent 4 seasons as the Raiders head coach, turning them back from zeros to heroes, building that epic offense, was dismissed after the controversial loss to the Patriots last year in the playoffs. and now he has a chance to throw in the face of Raiders GM and owner Al Davis. As his first year in Tampa, he did make the offense a little more deeper and helped Monty Kiffin stay the course on defense, and maybe even improved it in many ways where Tony Dungy couldn't. Then on the Raiders, Bill Callahan, the man who as offensive coordinator worked side by side with Gruden to build this amazing offensive scheme. But in his first year as head coach, he has kept those things going in that regard, and has made them even more indestructible, many may argue. And he also helped improve that defensive core drastically. The Bucs garnered 7 Pro Bowl selections, including quarterback Brad Johnson, making his second Pro Bowl and his first as a member of the Bucs. Mike Alstott at fullback makes his 6th consecutive and overall Pro Bowl, dating back to Tampa's breakout year in 1997. But of course, the defense, they take up 5 of their selections. Simeon Rice, after his epic season, makes his 2nd Pro Bowl and first as a Buck. Much like Alstott, Sapp also makes his 6th straight and overall Pro Bowl. Another amazing season. And so does Derek Brooks, the best season of his career, no doubt. The men who helped rebuild this team are getting their due. Linebacker Shelton Quarles, again, a breakout year, is awarded with his first Pro Bowl selection. And another man who is key in this build, John Lynch, makes his 4th straight and 5th overall Pro Bowl, once again showing how elite he is as a cover man and how big of an asset he's been to this team over the years. The Raiders had 5 selections total, and of course, Rich Gannon gets his 4th straight every year since he's joined the Raiders in 1999. Jerry Rice makes his 13th and final Pro Bowl, his only one as a Raider. In his 8th season, offensive center Barrett Robbins finally gets his first Pro Bowl selection, while offensive tackle Lincoln Kennedy makes his 3rd straight and overall Pro Bowl appearance. Rod Woodson made this his 11th and final Pro Bowl, his 4th straight, and his first as a Raider. He truly changed the fortunes of this Raiders defense. Each team had 5 All-Pros. On the first team, Tampa has 3. The Raiders have 4. Starting with the Raiders, Gannon gets his 2nd first-team selection, doing so back in 2000. And a year after getting his first second-team selection, Lincoln Kennedy gets his first-team selection. Barrett Robbins at last gets his first, while Rod Woodson gets his 6th and final first-team selection, and his first since 1994 to go with his 3 second-team selections. The 3 selections for Tampa were, of course, all on defense. Simeon Rice finally gets his first-team selection to go with his second-team selection in '99 with the Cardinals. Warren Sapp gets his 4th straight selection on the first team, going with his 2 second-team selections. Derek Brooks gets his 3rd selection, his first 2 coming in '99 and 2000, also has 3 prior second-team selections. On the second team, that leaves Tampa with 2, both on defense, and the Raiders with 1. The cornerstones of the Tampa defensive backcourt make the second team Rondé Barber and John Lynch. For Barber, a year after being a first-team selection for the first time, gets his first second-team selection. As for Lynch, after 2 straight first-team selections, gets his 2nd straight second-team. But Jerry Rice, age 40 no less, gets a second-team selection, actually the only one of his career to go with his 10 first-team selections. But there are a couple of awards to give out. What may they be? Yes! Derek Brooks is the 2002 NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Since he arrived in Tampa in 1995, he has worked tirelessly with putting forth the most effort and done all he could to make those around him better as well and improving his game so this defense could be as great as it is. Brooks is actually the 3rd Tampa player in history to win this award. Warren Sapp just won it back in 1999, and the first was Hall of Famer Leroy Selman in 1979. Oh, but there's another award to give out. Yes, indeed. Rich Gannon, 37 years old, crawling to the top of the league, is the NFL's MVP, Most Valuable Player. Truly a spectacular story. 3rd stringer, scratching, clawing, fighting his way into the league, working so hard to improve his game to finally become a starter permanently by the time he got to Oakland. Gannon, however, is only the 2nd Raiders player to win this award. The first was Ken Stabler in 1974. But now, it is time. So at last it has come down to this. Super Bowl 37. January 26, 2003, Qualcomm Stadium, San Diego, California. Happens to be in some nice weather out there. The Raiders are the favorites. They're favored to win by 4 points. So the Bucs aren't exactly heavy underdogs. But the odds makers feel that due to Oakland's better offense, that they'll win this thing. For the Raiders, lots of tumultuous times, but also some very high glories in their history. And it comes down to this. Years of mediocrity and outright bad teams, drama from owner GM Al Davis, they've come back from all of that. For Gannon, it's to complete a fairy tale story. For Tim Brown, who has bled silver and black for 15 years, it's finally his chance to bring a ring home. A lot of the guys have been there before and tasted the glory. Jerry Rice, Bill Romanowski, Sam Adams, and Rod Woodson know about the pressure that they're about to face. And perhaps that could give the Raiders the advantage. As for the Bucs, a long story of loserdom. A walking punchline in pro sports. Could very well be a distant memory permanently. John Lynch has spent 10 long years waiting for this chance. He, alongside Sapp, Alstott, and Brooks, were the pillars Tampa's emergence was built on, and even more so when Barber joined them. Longtime star receivers Keenan McCardell and Keyshawn Johnson had the chance that they've been close to but never quite got with their former teams. Quarterback Brad Johnson, who had a lot swept out from under him in his career, finally gets the chance to be the winner. Broadcast to an audience of estimated 88.6 million viewers on ABC. We're just about ready. Tons of great pregame activities. The national anthem sung by country pop group the Dixie Chicks. The coin toss, a special ceremony that featured the 1972 undefeated and Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins. This is their 30th anniversary. Tampa wins the coin toss. They elect to receive the ball. Sebastian Janikowski kicks it off a good 65 yards. Stecker returns it for 21. And Brad Johnson starts his first Super Bowl and starts from his own 26. He completed his first attempt, a short 4-yard pass to Mike Alstott, then hands it off to Pittman, who gains 1, and it brings up 3rd and 5. Johnson then takes the snap. He sees Keenan McCardell, and it's intercepted by Charles Woodson at the Tampa 48, returning it to the 36. The Raiders now start their first offensive drive in great position. You can already hear people laughing at Brad Johnson. Rich Gannon enters his first Super Bowl at long last at the Tampa 36. This should be easy peasy for him. He takes the snap, sees Garner, who catches it and gains 8 yards. However, Gannon gets a little over rambunctious and throws an incompletion to Brown. 3rd and 2. However, and this pass to Brown is good for 9 yards, getting a fresh set down 1st and 10 at the Tampa 19, a trip into the red zone. Garner gains a yard, and Gannon is forced to run, gaining 2, making it 3rd and 7. But then Gannon takes the snap, and there's Simeon Rice with a sack, driving Gannon 6 yards back. The Raiders had to get their special teams unit out for a field goal attempt as Sebastian Janikowski enters and boots a nice 40-yarder. It gives the Raiders the first points of the game, making it 3-0. Janikowski kicks off again, not even 5 minutes into the game. Stecker makes a good return to the 29. Brad Johnson looks ready to shake off the frustration and go to work. And he does right away. He finds Double J, or a good 11-yard gain, first down at their 40. After 2 straight incompletions to Pittman and Keyshawn, you can almost hear the laughs again. Then on 3rd and 10, Brad takes the snap and Double J again. A big 23-yard gain, first down at the Oakland 37. Then Pittman takes the handoff and finds a hole and takes off for 23 yards until Woodson brings him down, Rod that is. But Tampa makes their first trip into the red zone. They have a fresh set of downs at the 14. After an incompletion to Dilger, a 1-yard gain for Stecker, and another incompletion, Martin Gramatica comes out for the first time today, his first field goal attempt. And he boots a 31-yarder, and it's good to tie the game. And the Bucs are right in it. It's tied 3-3. Gramatica kicks it off, Knight returns it 23 yards, and Gannon starts at his own 30. A nice slow pass to Garner is good for 6 yards, but his first pass attempt to Jerry Rice is incomplete, bringing up 3rd and 4. And then on there, Gannon is sacked again, this time by Greg Spires, losing 5 yards and bringing up 4th and 9. Shane Leckler comes out for his first punt of the game. The Raiders go 3-0, but Leckler boots a nice 53-yarder. The Bucs start at their own 16, and Johnson goes 3 and out after a 1-yard gain from Pittman and 2 straight incompletions to Pittman and Alstott. Tom Tupa, playing in his first Super Bowl since 1996 season, boots a punt, but it's not a great one. And now the Raiders will start at their own 49 near midfield. The Raiders bring Crockett into the game in the backfield, and he makes gains of 4 and 2 yards, bringing up 3rd and 4. Gannon goes for a throw, sees Porter, but Spires breaks up the play. It's another 3 and out. Tampa's defense doing their job. Leckler lets go of a lesser punt than before, but Tampa still starts at their own 16. Pittman gains 4 yards on a carry, and then on 2nd and 6, Brad finds Keyshawn for a 12-yard completion. 1st and 10 at the Tampa 32. Brad then looks for Dilger, but Rod Woodson makes a great play breaking it up. Then on 2nd and 10, a penalty is called, the first penalty of the game. They're pushed back to 2nd and 15. On a completion of Keyshawn, a 2-yard loss for Pittman, buries them back at their 25. Tupa back in the punt. And the Raiders start with good position again at their 49. But people are wondering, is Gannon actually going to get things going now? Another nice short pass to Garner for 8 yards. Then Garner gets the handoff for no gain. And then on 3rd and 2, Gannon looks for Jolly, but is intercepted by Dexter Jackson. He returns it 9 yards, getting it near midfield at their own 49. And Tampa's offense comes out on the final play of the first quarter. Handoff to Pittman, gains a yard. And we end the first quarter tied 3-3. Well, it looks as if both teams' defenses are the highlights so far, making big plays, but Oakland's offense is very puzzling right now. While Tampa isn't exactly lighting it up either on their offensive end, they seem a little more motivated. Well, now we'll see what they can do in the second. And again on 2nd and 9 to start the second quarter, Brad Johnson throws another incompletion to Keyshawn, 3rd and 9, completes an 11-yard pass to Keyshawn Johnson, 1st and 10, the Oakland 39. Allstott makes the 3-yard carry. That's another completion to Keyshawn, this one for 9 yards, fresh set of downs to the Raiders 27. Allstott then gains 5, loses 3, and Brad incomplete to Keyshawn. Gramatica comes up for his second field goal attempt of the game and hits a 43-yarder, giving Tampa Bay a 6-3 lead as their defense is delivering. Their offense is doing pretty decent as well. Gramatica kicks it off. Knight returns it 23 yards to the Oakland 34. Good place for Gannon to try to get things finally going for them. He finds Jerry Porter for a 9-yard gain. Garner gets 2 to make it first down at their own 43. Gannon then takes a snap, looks for Porter again. Intercepted by Dexter Jackson again. 25 yards, and the Bucs offense takes over at the Raiders 45. But after an incompletion to Pittman then gains 5 yards. Another incompletion to Keyshawn means 3 and out. Tupa out to punt. Angles it deep in Oakland territory, and now the Raiders start at their 11. Incomplete to Brown. Then Gannon is sacked by Simeon Rice at the second time, losing a yard. Incomplete to Porter, 3 and out for the Raiders. Leckler gets a good 42 punt away, but Carl Williams returns it nicely to the Raiders 27. Johnson needs to get his team more points here, so he's going to rely on the ground game. Pittman carries for 6. Then on 2nd and 4, the 21, Pittman takes the handoff, takes off for 19 yards, a huge carry brought down at the 2. The Bucs are in the red zone. It's 1st and goal at the 2. Allstott gains nothing, but then on 2nd down, Allstott drives in for the touchdown. Mike Allstott gets himself a Super Bowl score. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have taken a bit of a stunning 13-3 lead. And the point after is, of course, good. This was a bit unexpected by many people. Gramatica kicks off again. Knight returns at 22 yards to the Raiders 29. Gannon is back out there. He throws the completion to Garner. Then Garner gains 4 on a carry, bringing up 3rd and 6. Then he finds Porter for a first down, gaining 11 yards. 1st and 10 at their own 44. Garner then loses a yard, but catches for 5. Another pass to Tim Brown goes incomplete. 4th and 6. Leckler out to punt. The Bucs start at their 23. Pittman gains 5 yards on a carry as he continues to play very well. And then a penalty moves Tampa up to the 33, bringing up first down again. Pittman then gains 9 yards on another big run. And then Brad finds Allstott on a pass pattern, and he drives ahead for a huge 16-yard gain. 1st and 10 at the Oakland 42. But the Raiders are called for another penalty. It's 1st and 5 at the 37. Brad, however, throws under a completion, but the Raiders take another penalty, making it 1st and 10 at the 29. After Allstott loses a yard, Brad completes a 10-yarder to Keyshawn, bringing up 3rd and 1. Allstott runs for 30 yards, bringing up 1st and 10 at the Raiders 17. Back in the red zone. Allstott then gains 12 yards, and it's 1st and goal at the 5. Johnson takes the snap and finds Keenan McCardle, his first catch of the game, and it's a Super Bowl touchdown. Wow, and the Bucs are leading 20-3 as the point after is good. This is crazy. I mean, it's not at all shocking that the Bucs are winning the game, but they're pretty much now dominating. Well, Grammatica kicks off again, but Knight is brought down by Dwight Smith pretty quickly this time. Starting at their own 13, Gannon tries another short pass to Garner, but Sapp breaks it up. Garner gains a yard, then 3, and it's halftime. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers lead 20-3 in a crazy turn of events, but the game isn't completely out of reach yet. As Shania Twain performs the halftime show along with No Doubt and Sting, let's look at some of the numbers. The story between the league's best passing offense of the Raiders and the best passing defense of the Bucs is being won heavily by the latter. And Tampa's offense is actually doing what they've done all season, staying the course, staying steady, putting points on the board. But nobody thought they'd actually be outplaying the Raiders on that side of the ball. Tampa has 12 first downs. The Raiders just have 3. Tampa had 225 total yards of offense in the first half. Raiders just have 62. Wow. It was actually looking rough for Tampa as they did throw that pick to Charles Woodson early in the game, but Gannon has thrown 2 interceptions, both to Dexter Jackson, while neither team has yet to turn the ball over on downs. In terms of trip to the red zone, Tampa has made 3, all resulting in points. The Raiders have just made 1, resulting in the only points they have so far in this game, a field goal where they are 1 for 1, where Grammatica is 2 for 2. In terms of punts, Tupa has booted 3, Leckler has kicked away 4. While Brad Johnson may not be putting together what you'd call an MVP performance, he's still shockingly outplaying Gannon here, completing 10 of 24 passes, still under half, but has thrown for 113 yards, thrown a touchdown and a pick. It did allow the Raiders to score their 3 points, that pick. But Gannon has not been good at all. The Bucs defense has his number. 7 for 17, 10 incompletions, just 56 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That's nuts. Another thing to note, Tampa's secondary has been crazy good. Jackson has been amazing with 2 picks, but Barber, Lynch, Kelly, Smith, and Brooks have been huge as well. As Jerry Rice, one of the greatest performers in the history of the Super Bowl, even to this day, hasn't caught a single pass in the first half. Tim Brown has only caught 1 for 9 yards. Meanwhile, Keyshawn Johnson's delivering on this one, 4 catches for 42 yards, just over 10 yards a catch in the first half. While Michael Pittman is playing a great game on the ground. 14 carries for 81 yards, a bit of a surprise, 5.8 yards per carry. And we're huge on that drive where Tampa went up 20-3. And he's made some big gains and big plays. Well, now we're ready for the second half. The Raiders get the ball to start the second half and the third quarter as Grammatica kicks off. Knight makes another good return for 22 yards. The Raiders start at their 27. Let's see if Gannon has regrouped and found his groove again. Hey, he makes 2 straight completions to Porter and Jolly for 3 and 5 yards respectively, but on 3rd and 2, throws an incompletion to Knight thanks to great defense from Brian Kelly. Leckler punts it away for a nice 44 yards. But a penalty on Tampa moves them all the way back to their 11-yard line after the punt. Pittman gains 6 and 2 yards on back-to-back carries. On 3rd and 2, Brad Johnson is forced to run and actually gains 10 yards for a first down at his own 29. Pittman gains 2 more, then Brad finds Keyshawn for a 9-yard gain. It's first down at their 40. After an incompletion to Allstott, Mikey Boy gains 3 yards on a carry, bringing up 3rd and 7. But then Brad is a complete pass to Double J, and he gains 11. First down on the Raiders' 46. Pittman loses a yard on the next carry, but then Johnson finds Double J again. Dravicus with a 33-yard catch. What a play. What a game the unsung hero is having. Back in the red zone, 1st and 10 at the Raiders' 14. After a 1-yard gain from Allstott, Johnson finds Ken Dilger at the 1 for a 12-yard gain. 1st and goal, 1 away. But then Kenyatta Walker on the next play is called for illegal use of the hands. The Bucs go back to the 11. Still first down. Pittman gains 3 to get up to the 8. Then on 2nd down, Brad finds Keenan McCardle for a touchdown pass, his 2nd of the game. This one 8 yards out, and wow. The Bucs are running away with this, 27-3 with the point after, and time is not on the Raiders' side. This drive killed nearly 8 minutes off the clock. The Raiders really need to get on the board and fast before the quarter ends so they can kiss it goodbye. Kickoff again, Knight makes a good 29-yard return. Gannon needs to wake up. They start at their own 32. A nice pass to Garner, gains 8 yards to the 40, and 2nd and 2. Gannon sees Jerry Rice looking for his first catch, but intercepted by Dwight Smith at the 44. He's still going. Nobody's catching him. He goes all the way for a touchdown. The point after is good. Gannon's 3rd interception thrown, and now the Bucs lead 34-3. The Raiders might as well just kiss this goodbye. Tampa's defense has been crazy good in this one, as they have an answer for everything. Oh, the next kickoff seems bittersweet as the Raiders start at their 18. Starts up back. Gannon is sacked by Wims for a yard loss. Incompletion to Brown. And we're at 3rd and 11. Yep, might as well call it a day. But, oh, wow. Big play. Good pass to Doug Jolly to gain 25 yards. Raiders make it to their 42. And at last, Jerry Rice finally makes his first catch of the game, gaining 6 yards. But after 2 incompletions, the Raiders catch a break. Pass interference on Shelton Quarles brings up a fresh set of downs on the Tampa 46. John Ritchie comes in and catches a 7-yard pass. But after an incompletion, it's 3rd and 3 at the Tampa 39. But on the next play, Gannon takes a snap. He's looking long towards the end zone and finds Jerry Porter for a 39-yard touchdown pass. The Raiders finally get something, but the damage looks to be done. And their 2-point convert also fails. They trail 34-9. Brad Johnson and the Bucs are going to play it smart. Run the ball, kill the clock. Janikowski kicks off, and Smith returns it to their own 31. However, a holding penalty moves them back to 1st and 20. Pittman then gain 2, then 4, bringing up 3rd and 14. The Raiders go offside, and that ends the third quarter. The Bucs just have to keep staying the course and not make mistakes. Well, the Bucs are leading by 25 points, 34-9, and are just 15 minutes away from making franchise history for their first championship. They start the final quarter 3rd and 9 from their 32. Pittman gains 1, but Tupa is now at the punt. And it's blocked by Tim Johnson. The ball stalls at 13, and Eric Johnson picks it up. Runs in for a touchdown. What a huge break for the Raiders and a stunning turn of events for the Bucs. The 2-point convert again fails. Regardless, all of a sudden, the Raiders now trail by 19. It may seem impossible, but not overly improbable. But there's still practically a whole quarter to play. 14:25 remains. Well, Stecker does return the kickoff for 19 yards. Tampa starts at their 24. Pittman is stopped for no gain, but then Brad Johnson finds Keyshawn Johnson for an 18-yard gain, bringing up a fresh set of downs at their own 42. Pittman gains 2, but Brad throws an incompletion to Allstott, bringing up 3rd and 8 on their own 44. However, a penalty makes it 3rd and 3 at their 49, but then Charles Woodson is called for pass interference, which is already infuriating this already frustrated Raiders team. Now the Bucs are 1st and 10 at the Raiders 35. Hand out to Pittman. He takes off for 24 yards. Brought down at the Raiders 11. Allstott gains 2, but then Pittman loses 2. 3rd and 10 at the 11. A sharp pass to Allstott gains 2. Here comes Gramatica for his 3rd field goal attempt. However, the snap is bobbled. Tupa fumbles, and Gramatica recovers it. It's a turnover on downs. However, the Raiders catch another break. Gannon needs to move fast if he wants to pull off the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history, but he's determined to do so. 9-yard completion to Jolly. 7-yard completion to Wheatley. 1st and 10 at their 38. But Sapp breaks up a pass to Garner. Rice catches a short pass to gain 3. And it's 3rd and 7. But then Gannon finds Doug Jolly for 14 yards. He's making some big plays. They're in Tampa territory at the 45. But then a completion to Rice. And another bad penalty. Loses them 10 yards. 2nd and 20 from their 45. But then Gannon finds Garner for 7 yards. It's 3rd and 13 from the Tampa 48. Gannon takes the snap. He's looking for the big play. He needs one. It's up. It's going long. And Jerry Rice has it for a touchdown. Mr. Super Bowl has struck with his 8th career Super Bowl touchdown. But again, the 2-point convert fails. But with 6:14 remaining, the Raiders only trail 34-21. 2 converted touchdowns. That's still better than anybody thought they might do. And they've scored 12 points in this quarter, but just imagine if they hit all those 2-point converts, they'd only be trailing by a touchdown. That's insane. But can a miracle still happen? Now the game isn't in such complete control anymore for the Bucs, but they're still in the driver's seat, as mistakes on their special team, however, have cost them. But at least their offense is still doing well. Gannon is finding his game, it seems, but is it too late? Well, Janikowski kicks it all the way into the end zone, and Tampa will start from their 20. Pittman makes gains of 1 and 2 yards, bringing up 3rd and 7. The Raiders are stuck using a timeout. Bradley completes a 9-yard pass to Allstott, 1st and 10 from their 32. Pittman makes 3 straight carries that amount to 3 yards. The Bucs punt. So the Raiders now get it back with just under 3 minutes to play at their 26. And it starts well as Rice gains 11 for a first down at the 37. Gannon gets stuck, gains a yard. Then he is sacked by Sapp and fumbles. But the Raiders recover regardless. It's a 9-yard loss 3rd and 18. Time is running out with a 2-minute warning. Gannon sees Knight at the 44, and it's intercepted by Derek Brooks. He's still going, and it's a touchdown, and that's going to be the ball game, as the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year has sealed the deal for his team's first championship with a 44-yard interception return. The extra point is good, 41-21. Well, not much the Raiders can do other than close the gap to make it not look so terrible. Well, after an incompletion, Gannon makes 3 straight completions to Jolie, Rice, and Garner. First attempt at Tampa 49, and it's intercepted by Dwight Smith, and he returns it 50 yards for a touchdown. The final insult, 48-21. Tampa leads, just 2 seconds left. Smith's second interception return for a touchdown in this game. That is nuts. Well, kick out to Cooper, nothing matters. The clock cuts down to 0. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, at long last, Super Bowl champions of 2002. The loser label is gone forever. The best passing defense not only defeat but dominate the best passing offense. Rich McKay, who took over as GM in 1994, is all smiles from ear to ear. Began to build a big team come 1995, and it has paid off dividends. For Coach John Gruden, it's a big middle finger to the man who fired him, Al Davis. For the city of Tampa, their first major professional sports championship. Brad Johnson can call himself a champion regardless of the naysayers. Deal with it. Keyshawn Johnson, Keenan McCardle, Michael Pittman, Tom Tupa, and Jeff Christie get their rings that they couldn't get elsewhere, despite some of them playing on some great teams and having some brushes with success. The amazing Tampa defense, Jackson, Smith, Kelly, Barber, Quarles, Rice, all taste the sweetness of being the best. But the men that started it all on a path to a better place, Lynch, Sapp, Brooks, and Allstott, had all that hard work they put into making this team successful truly pay off. So did General Manager Rich McKay. And also, speaking of Christie, he and that Tampa O-line really stepped up their game. They deserve a lot of credit in a huge way with their blocking. Same with Allstott, same with Dilger. And major kudos to Coach John Gruden, who was the final ingredient to put them over the top. Nobody is really shocked that Tampa won, but they were shocked how much they dominated this game. For the Raiders, a crushing defeat. A game they never really had control of outside maybe the first few minutes in the first quarter. Gannon's chance to close the chapter of a truly epic story ends in heartbreak, and he'd never get another shot. Jerry Rice was the type of game he always dominated, losing the Super Bowl for the first time. Rod Woodson will not get a second ring. However, you feel more than anybody for Tim Brown. 15 seasons, this was his first and only chance at winning it all. And he was nowhere to be found as he just couldn't outgun that Tampa defense. Their ground game was literally non-existent. And crazy to think that the Raiders, who also had one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL that year, were overcome by Tampa's just decent running game, which ran all over them in a big way. For the likes of Charles Woodson, he'll fight another day. But for the Raiders and Bill Callahan, this would begin more than 20 years now to this day, as they are now in Vegas, a pure failure. Al Davis, right up till his passing, became public enemy number 1 among fans. The final numbers saw that Tampa out-strategized the Raiders in many ways. 24 first downs for the Bucs. 11! That's it for the Raiders. Tampa totaled 365 yards of offense, most of that coming in the first half. The Raiders did do better in the second half, however, in total 269. Still not very good. The Raiders turned the ball over 5 times, all interceptions. The Bucs turned it over twice, early on the Woodson interception that led to the opening field goal and the Tupa block punt. The Bucs also turned it over on downs, once leading to a Raiders touchdown. The Bucs made 4 trips to the red zone, all resulting in points. The Raiders just won, and that was early in the game. But the real telling stat, time of possession. This is where Brad Johnson excelled, as the Bucs had the ball for 37 minutes and 14 seconds compared to 22:46 of the Raiders. Ouch. Then we look at quarterback Brad Johnson. Again, didn't put on what I'd call an MVP performance, but he controlled the ball well and made some key and huge plays. He went 18 for 34 for 215 yards and 2 touchdown tosses and 1 interception. Rich Gannon, however, just fell apart early in the game. Played slightly better in the second, but nowhere near good enough for a win, obviously. And not even close to his top form. 24 for 44, 20 incompletions, 272 yards, 2 touchdown tosses, both in the second half in the comeback attempt. And again, 5 interceptions. Gannon threw 10 all season, throwing half of that in the biggest game of his career. Michael Pittman probably put on the most shocking performance of the game, 29 carries for 124 yards for the Buccaneers, running all over the Raiders' excellent rushing defense. Pittman made some epic plays in the first half and was used smartly in the second half to kill the clock and keep protecting the lead. He played the game of his life in this one. We look a bit more at Tampa's offense. Keyshawn Johnson came up big with some monster catches, especially in the first half, helping Tampa set up some points. 6 catches for 69 yards, 11.5 yards a catch. But the unsung hero, Jojo Vericus, I know I'm not pronouncing that right, and I'm sorry. Double J, I call him, though. Caught 4 passes for 78 yards and 2 big catches that set up Grammatica's field goal, which tied the game 3-3 in the first, and 2 more that set up the touchdown that made it 27-3. 19.5 yards per catch to boot. Now, Keenan McCardell may have only caught 2 passes for 13 yards, 1 for 5, another 8, but they were both touchdowns and still played a big role in this win. Mike Allstott was big on blocking assignments that protected Johnson and gave him a lot of time. He only had 10 carries for 15 yards, making short yardage plays, including his 2-yard touchdown. But he also caught many key short pass patterns, so that was his big contribution offensively anyway. And a long one for 16 yards, that was key as well. 5 catches for 43 yards overall. Oakland's offense, of course, was a huge disappointment, as you probably gathered. Jerry Rice had 5 catches for 77 yards and scored that big 48-yard touchdown to keep the Raiders in the game. But all of his catches came in the second half when the game was pretty much almost out of reach. And it's the only time in the 4 Super Bowls that he has ever played in his career he never reached at least 100 yards. But the heartbreak for Tim Brown is even all the more sadder, as he never got a chance to win the big one, as he only had 1 catch that was early in the game for 9 yards and was well covered the rest of the way. Charlie Garner was one of the few moving the ball with 7 catches for 51 yards, but his running game was completely obliterated. 7 carries for just 10 yards, 1.4 yards per carry. Yikes. Jerry Porter, however, had 4 catches for 62 yards. It was one of the better offensive players for the Raiders on this day, plus a touchdown as part of the attempted comeback. But now to the Bucs defense. Oh, the defense. The Bucs truly show their dominance on their best side of the ball. We begin with Dwight Smith. 2 interceptions, 2 touchdown returns. The first coming in the third quarter, making it 34-3. And the second, of course, the final insult with mere seconds remaining, making it 48-21. He has been an underrated part of this defense all season, but stamped his name in the memories of Buc fans forever with this performance. But then Dexter Jackson, however, also had 2 interceptions, both in the first half. Played a great game overall. His first interception came late in the first, which set up that field goal that gave the Bucs the lead. And the other came on the Raiders' following drive. He stepped up big time in his biggest game. Derek Brooks, the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year, also had an interception and returned 44 yards for a touchdown. In a move that 120% sealed the game for his team, he added a few tackles as well. Simeon Rice also played at his best, nailing Gannon for 2 sacks and was in his face the whole game, adding tremendous pressure and showing why he has been an asset to this Bucs team all season long. He added 5 tackles. Now we look at other members of the defensive backcourt. Rondé Barber officially defended and broke up 4 passes and provided great coverage the entire game, as did Brian Kelly, who not only covered well but had 8 tackles. And to note, John Lynch also played a solid game. And continuing with that great defense, a lot of credit to these men. Warren Sapp was on his game, adding a sack to boot. Greg Spears and Ellis Williams also each had a sack and all provided great pressure on Gannon, while linebacker Sheldon Quarles hit 7 tackles. The Raiders' defense only had very few highlights. Charles Woodson played well with an interception early in the game that set up the opening field goal and added 8 tackles, while Bill Romanowski had 10 tackles and Eric Barton had 13. The Raiders kick returner Marcus Knight did all he could in all the action he saw. He returned 8 kicks for 143 yards, averaging 17.9 yards per return, often putting his team in good position but unable to capitalize. As for the Bucs, 3 kick returns, 67 yards, averaging 22.3 yards return for Aaron Stecker. What a great game he had. He also got his team in great positions and gave Johnson a lot to work with. While Carl Williams returned 1 punt for 25 yards, but that later set up Mike Allstott's touchdown. So now we only have one question. Who is the Super Bowl MVP? You'd think it's got to be a member of the defense. Dwight Smith certainly got to be a front runner with 2 interception returns and 2 touchdowns. Simeon Rice could also be a candidate, asking Derek Brooks. If they could give it to someone on offense, perhaps, it'd certainly have to be Michael Pittman. However, indeed, the Super Bowl MVP, most valuable player, is Dexter Jackson. And yes, indeed, he played a beauty of a game. And okay, there's been some debate about this. It's not as if he's undeserving, but many felt Smith should have gotten it since his interceptions were both returned for touchdowns and more impactful. But others counters, saying the game was far out of reach by the time his second interception came around. But again, Jackson's only led to a field goal if we're going to play it like that. Either way, it looks like they decided this perhaps before the game was officially over, and I've often heard that happens. I will never say Jackson is undeserving, but perhaps Smith did deserve it more. I don't know. Either way, regardless, he is the MVP. His team is happy because he is forever loved by Bucs fans because of this performance. In terms of TV numbers, Super Bowl 37 actually increased by an estimated 1.8 million viewers, nearly 2 million over the year prior, and a 40.7 Nielsen TV rating, up 0.3 from the year prior. This is the highest number actually since Super Bowl 32, an all-star showdown between Elway and Favre, the Broncos and the Packers, and the 6th most watched Super Bowl of all time at that point anyway. Not bad at all. Now let's see out of these 2 teams who made the Hall of Fame. The Bucs totaled 4 Hall of Famers from this club, and to no surprise, they're all from the defense. The first was the great Warren Sapp, inducted on 2013, first year of eligibility. Oddly enough, he retired in 2007 after 4 seasons with the Raiders. Derek Brooks was inducted the following year in 2014, also in his first year of eligibility, as he retired as a Buck. And the class of 95 both indeed have received the NFL's highest individual honors. John Lynch, who left the Bucs after the 03 season, spent 4 seasons with the Broncos, where he continued to actually play pretty well, retiring in 2007, but had to wait a little while for his honor, but it finally came in 2021. Rondé Barber retired in 2012, spending his full career with the Bucs, but waited a few extra years for his call to come, and it finally did in 2023. Now, it's likely that Rich Mackay will be inducted into the Hall of Fame as an executive one day, as while he did part the Bucs all the way back in 2003, the fact that what he made this team and turned them into from the GM position definitely was something to behold. And he's also spent 22 years with the Falcons after that, up until 2025, and was a major part of their front office and some of the success that they've had, despite the fact that they, were the victims of the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. Many have made an argument for Mike Allstott. With 6 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team selections, and a second-team one, it's possible his day could come in the distant future. But now we move to the Raiders. The Raiders also had 4 players inducted, but have 5 overall from this team due to 1 executive. Of course, we all know that's Al Davis, but he'd been inducted all the way back in 1992. The amazing Rod Woodson finished his career as a Raider and retired after the following season in 2003, and was inducted in his first year of eligibility in 2009. But of course, to the surprise of literally nobody and their dogs, Jerry Rice made it in his first year of eligibility in 2010. He actually played 1 more full season with the Raiders in 03, but his production slipped. And 04, after 6 games with the Oakland, he left for Seattle, where he played the final 11 games of his career. Tim Brown, after 2003, left the Raiders and spent his final season in 2004 with the Bucs, oddly enough. He also had to wait a few extra years, which was kind of puzzling, but finally got to call to the Hall in 2015. Last, and most certainly not least, Charles Woodson, first ballot Hall of Famer in 2021. He left the Raiders in 2005 and then spent a highly successful 7 season with the Packers and Green Bay, which included a Super Bowl win and a Defensive Player of the Year award. He actually did return to Oakland to retire, playing his final 3 seasons there, calling it a career in 2015. Now, you might notice one glaring omission, and I'm sure a lot of you football experts agree with this, is Shane Lechler, who's regarded as one of the greatest punters of all time. He stayed with the Raiders all the way until 2012 and spent his last 5 seasons with the Texans. However, as of the recording of this video, the 2026 Hall of Fame inductees have yet to be announced. I'm sure he'll get in soon enough. Out of all these players, of course, Jerry Rice is the only one for the NFL's all-1980s decade team, and that was, of course, all from his time with the 49ers. Well, same goes for the 90s team for Rice, as he spent all that with San Francisco, and Rod Woodson also made it to the 90s team as well. But Tim Brown was the only Raider from the Super Bowl who actually did play so with the Raiders that made the all-90s team, while Warren Sapp made the cut for this team as well for Tampa Bay. A total of 3 Bucs from this team, and 2 Raiders made the all-2000s decade team. Sapp, Brooks, and Barber all made the cut, while 2 Raiders, Charles Woodson and Shane Lechler, actually made it as well. Speaking of Lechler, he's the only one in the all-2010s team as well as a punter. An array of talent stretching 4 different decades. But now, we move on to even bigger accolades than that. And of course, before they both joined the Raiders, as mentioned, both Jerry Rice and Rod Woodson made the NFL's 75th anniversary team. And in 2017, Rice and Woodson also made the 100th anniversary team for the NFL, as did Shane Lechler as punter. Only one Bucs player, however, made the 100th anniversary team from at least these squads. That was Derek Brooks. And indeed, that does it for a look at Super Bowl 37. Thank you all for tuning in, and enjoy the big game this year coming up. Please like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I'll see ya.